Chapter 737. Chase. The Heavenly Father was covered in wounds, but he was in a good mood. This was probably the first time he had defeated Darkseid. He waved his scepter and shouted, but after a moment's hesitation, he stopped himself from attacking the ordinary soldiers. Seeing that the enemy new gods were fleeing one after another, the generals of the new creator star, including Sia, who was almost out of mana, all stopped what they were doing. They claimed that they did not want to attack the ordinary soldiers because of their status, but in reality, they did not have much combat power left. There were many times more apocalyptic demons on the battlefield than there were on Earth. Even though the morale of the new gods' armies was high, it took them a long time to defeat the enemy. Taking into account the casualties on the new continent, at least 300 million apocalyptic demons had died in the battle. The new gods had also suffered heavy casualties. Of the million soldiers who had followed Thea to the new continent, less than 700,000 had returned. 1/3 of them had died on the new continent. The war on the planet of creation was even more intense. Many untrained civilians had picked up weapons and joined the battle. One could only imagine the devastation. "Goddess Thea, please come and take a look at the light." Just as Milady finished telling the Heavenly Father about the battle on her side, the second-generation god, Orion, hurriedly asked her to go and save his good friend. The Heavenly Father really did not have any objections to this adopted son, and hurriedly asked them to go quickly. The bright young man in a white robe and red pants, who used to be very fast, was now lying in a room with a black face. Some unknown substance kept rising from the black gas. Thea knew that it was death gas. The god of light energy, the new god who was known to be able to run as fast as light, was now lying on the bed, barely breathing. A piece of golden dragon skin covered his body. Unfortunately, even the strong aura of light could only delay his death, not heal him. This room was located at one of the highest points on the planet of creation, second only to the Heavenly Father's room. Strong light shone in through the window, but even the strongest sunlight could not get within 3 meters of the light. "Can you guide some light here? Maybe he can heal himself by absorbing external light?" "Nonsense. Do you understand the condition of Lord Light's injuries? He lacks vitality. We should replenish it." When Thea and Orion came in, a few healers were arguing with each other. Watching a deity fall into a long slumber due to severe injuries was not something to be happy about. The healers frowned as they discussed the treatment. Unfortunately, their treatment was like throwing a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Compared to the body that had been corroded by the black gas, their treatment was too insignificant. "Lady Thea, Lord Orion." When they saw them come in, they heaved a sigh of relief. Regardless of their professions, they were only mortals, while these two were gods. Orion waved them away impatiently and gestured for Thea to come and take a look. When Thea saw this injury, she immediately understood that it was a soul injury. Who injured him? Black Runner. Ray lured him away and the two of them competed in speed. In the end, Ray lost. Orion said hatefully. As he spoke, he displayed an image of two figures moving as fast as lightning. The one running in front was naturally Light Ray. He was just the god of light, not the god of light. This additional word made the difference in level. In Thea's eyes, he was about the same as the current Barry Allen. The person behind him was dressed in black. It looked like a hilarious set of ski equipment. He held a ski pole in one hand and a ski on the other. He looked comical, but his speed was frighteningly fast. In Thea's eyes, this person's speed had surpassed the speed of taking drugs. He was not running. He was gliding on the path of death. He looked cool, but in reality, he ran fast and died fast. Like Barry and Light Ray, running a few steps was nothing to them. It was normal for them to use their super speed to buy coffee and tidy up their rooms. However, this Death Runner was different. Every time he started running, he had to kill someone. It sounded like he had to draw his sword and kill someone when he was unsheathed. In reality, it was like drinking water. Only the person who was comfortable would know if it was warm or cold. The rules of death were not easy to manipulate. Darkseid could not do it, Thea could not do it, and this person could not do it either. Moreover, this person was dancing on the head of death. A small accident could kill this new god. But wasn't this person a prisoner of Darkseid? Why was he fighting for the Dark Lord? Thea did not have time to think. She checked Light Ray's injuries. It was just as she had guessed. This black runner who was running around on a black sled was not the death god. He was the god of soul harvesting. Perhaps it was because the divine seat was empty after the death of the soul. This person took the opportunity to brag that he was the death god. Then, he was captured and imprisoned by Darkseid. It was not difficult for those who knew. If his soul was extracted, Thea would not be able to do anything. After all, she did not have the divine seat of death. Fortunately, Light Ray was also a new god. His soul was strong, so there was still a chance of saving him. Prepare 10 Een spirit stones for me. Ice spirit hair, Morig's spider silk. He rattled off a bunch of materials. Olion memorized them carefully. Who covered him with this piece of broken skin? Isn't this stimulating the soul power in his body? Nonsense. The young mistress took the golden dragon skin away from Light Ray and put it in her pocket. She was not afraid that someone would tell on her. Now that she had made some contributions, if her character was perfect and she was popular, the Heavenly Father would be wary of her. The Heavenly Father was a good boss. She had to show some of her shortcomings so that they could get along well in the future. Therefore, she had no qualms about holding an adult golden dragon skin. Sia stayed on the new creation planet for half a month to cure the light. Along the way, she also listened to the teachings of the Heavenly Father several times. Over and over again, the final battle between the good and evil had not really happened yet. This time, it was just a rehearsal and so on. The new gods listened with bitter faces. Everyone's condition was really bad. They could not fight even if they wanted to in a short time. The Heavenly Father knew the situation of his subordinate. Their divine power level was below half. If they fought again, more than one Light Ray would be injured. The legions replenished their ranks and recovered their strength. They were ready for the next battle. After another half a month, the great battle ended. The multiverse seemed to have quieted down. Thea returned to Earth. First, she accompanied Diana to bury the Amazon sisters. Then, she paid a visit to the magic school. They had also contributed in the great battle. Other than Constantine, the scoundrel, all the teachers were injured. More than 30 students died in the battle. Among them, 5 celebrities died in the battle. 2 artists died. Yellow Lantern and Blue Lantern's families had to be compensated. Green Lantern's death also needed to be sent back to the main planet of Ura for burial. Thea sent away the reinforcements of the various lanterns. The tense atmosphere was gone. She could finally go home and take a breather. Chapter 738. The Morgan family, as a traitor, was condemned by people all over the world. The family property was seized and all of it was gathered to establish a victims' fund, which was used as compensation for the dead and future living expenses for the injured. 150,000 elite soldiers died in battle, 700,000 soldiers were injured, and more than 300,000 of them lost their ability to move and needed to be supported by the country. The amount of money needed to pay for this could not be calculated in a short time. Coupled with the loss of various weapons and equipment in the battle, a huge number was shared among the countries. Even with the Morgan family's property as a foundation, it still made the finance ministers of various countries tremble. Moira seemed to be possessed by the power of speed. The government worked very quickly, collecting evidence, prosecuting, and adjudicating. The process was completed in less than half a month. Thea had just cured the light, and the 2 knowing, main criminals of the Morgan family were shot to death. The remaining family members were each sentenced to 20 years to 1 year in prison. While he was at it, He also made a copy of their property. As for Maxwell Lloyd's Shogi Club, it would bring great pressure to the White House. Moira insisted that this human cancer should be banned. This organization, which was attached to the United Nations and composed of elite agents from various countries, resisted tenaciously. They could remove Maxwell's name and apologize, but they could not ban him. During the war of words between several parties, it was discovered that Maxwell had previously shot a businessman named Ted Cotter. Unfortunately, it was covered up by the Shogi Club. There were nearly $800 million in Maxwell's personal account, which did not look like the wealth of an agent. When the White House continued to investigate, all the clues were cut off, and the investigator could only provide a report of a huge amount of funds from unknown sources. "Hey, these guys have new ideas after the war," Moira complained to the young lady who was lying lazily on the sofa in the White House. Thea's spiritual power was greatly depleted, and the external manifestation was that she was sleepy and easily distracted. She also knew who these guys, her mother, was talking about. How could a few agents dare to challenge the White House? Obviously, there was someone supporting them. They were not satisfied with their current interests and wanted more. Now they were testing the mother and daughter's bottom line. Limited by her identity as a hero of justice, Thea could not make a move. She also knew that her mother's intention was not against the Shogi Club, but the people behind them. "It's too complicated. You take your time to deal with it. If it's too troublesome, just let them dance for a few days." Thea leisurely freshened herself up and went to attend the hero assembly. He yawned as he arrived at the Hall of Justice. As soon as he opened the door, he heard Batman and Superman arguing. "I don't understand. Why didn't you destroy such a dangerous robot?" "Superman, I've told you many times that Demon Joie is worth preserving. He is the crystallization of human wisdom and should not be destroyed so easily." "You're playing with fire." Superman frowned as he looked at his old friend. He knew what the other party was thinking too well. It was still the same old trick of leaving a backup plan in order to contain the superhero. Thea looked at the two of them arguing and found it a little funny. She sat lazily beside Diana and watched the show. "Did you know that Rong-en quit?" Diana whispered. Thea nodded. Today's meeting was naturally to propose the establishment of the Justice League. Unfortunately, when they found the Martian hunter, he refused to participate. His reason was that he was not a superhero, but a Martian who relied on Earth for protection. The two of them had a deep talk. The Martian hunter felt that he had not recovered from his fear of fire and could only be absent from many fiery occasions. Instead of occupying a position and not doing anything, it was better not to join in the first place. Thea could only express her understanding. "Uncle Rong-en is a good person." Unfortunately, time passed quickly, and the remaining people arrived one after another. In this time and space, Victor Stone was still happily playing football as a wide receiver. As one of the shareholders of the Red House, Thea had seen this star athlete in the Red House. From the aesthetic point of view of black people, he was a handsome young man. Victor liked sports and liked to fly on the field. He hoped to get the attention of his father, Silas Stone. Unfortunately, Dr. Stone did not realize this. The father and son's problems could only be solved by themselves. Thea would not be so cruel as to modify him. Steel bones would not appear. The Martian hunter quit, and the few of them proposed that they pull the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, in. Together with Thea, Diana, Superman, Batman, the Flash, and Poseidon, there were exactly 7 of them. Superhero? Even superheroes had to be political. Although Hal Jordan made it clear that he would not stay on Earth for long, the few of them still pulled him in. As the Universe Police, no matter who became the Green Lantern in the future, the Green Lantern would always occupy a place in the official league. Poseidon, who could communicate with Atlantis and was not close to the few of them, was indispensable. In order to balance the ratio of gods, aliens, and Earthlings, Batman forced the Flash to participate in the meeting. In general, there were 2 goddesses, one Kryptonian, and one mixed-blood Atlantean. No matter what the other 3 did, they were all pure Earthlings. 3½ to 3½ was very equal in terms of bloodline. The few of them were silent. Superman motioned for Thea to speak. As the main force of the battle, the title of leader belonged to her by default. Let's first welcome Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern of Sector 2814. This is his first time attending our meeting. Thea was the first to introduce. The Flash wanted to applaud, but he put his hand down when he saw that the few of them were very serious. Although there were heavy casualties in this war, we have defeated the invasion of evil. This is not the first time, and I don't think it will be the last. Everyone here is the best of the best. No matter what your background is, we need to unite and be united. This will be our theme for a long time. We are sitting here today to make Earth better and to protect the pure land in our hearts. Although we have ideological disputes, such as whether we should bring hope or fear to mankind, Thea said and looked at Superman and Batman. Or the contradiction between the lanterns. Hal Jordan was still upset about the yellow light. The friction between us and Atlantis is now on the rise again. She looked at Poseidon. It takes 2 to clap. The politicians on the surface are F***ked, and the ones under the sea are not much better. Although there are so many problems, I believe that the future will get better and better. Future battles should not be fought alone. We need our collective strength and wisdom. My proposal is to solve all the big problems in the future, resolve the contradictions between us, and dissolve the estrangement between humans and aliens. Seek common ground while reserving differences, and establish an alliance, a united Justice League. Chapter 739. Thea didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the Hall of Justice was filled with holiness. The warm sunlight shone into the hall, and everyone's faces seemed to be plated with a layer of gold. I won't be on Earth often. Does that mean I'll? Hal Jordan was more than willing to show off in front of the people on Earth, but he scratched his head when he thought of his own responsibilities. Thea explained to him, "Our alliance is very loose. Everyone is very capable and has their own things to do. For example, Batman is in Gotham, Superman is in Metropolis, and Diana and I have to go back to New Creation Planet from time to time. This alliance was established to unite everyone. We help each other so that we won't be defeated by our enemies." Okay. I can only say that I will try my best to participate in activities. You know the Guardians of Ura. Thea saw that he was about to say something like F***ck and quickly stopped him. Go ahead and scold them in front of them. Everyone, do you have any questions? No one had any objections. This far-reaching alliance was thus established. Thea glanced outside under Diana's strange gaze. Sure enough, novels were all lies. There was no golden light for such a great event. This building will be the surface base of the Justice League in the future. I have a lot of training equipment, like Superman's red radiation training room and the Flash's speed treadmill. Everyone can come and train if they have nothing to do, Thea said nonchalantly. Superman's face fell. Red radiation training room? Are you sure that's what I need? Thea glanced at the faces of the people in the room. It was as if she was saying, if you have nothing to do, I'm going home to sleep? Your high-dimensional design is very interesting. The trouble on Apocalypse Planet can be intercepted by the New World. What about the crisis in our universe? Batman, who lived in calculations every day, still asked a question. Green Lantern can solve all the problems in the universe. Thea didn't say anything, but Hal jumped up. Batman was expressionless. He was sending a message, I don't believe you. In fact, Thea did not believe it either. The universe was full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. The Green Lanterns could only solve at most half of the problems. The rest were all experts. Just the group of biochemical weapons from Krypton, the Destroyers and Terminators, could easily cause trouble for the Green Lanterns. In her memory, there were still a few galaxies that the Green Lanterns did not set foot in. What happened next was not too surprising. In order to intercept cosmic threats, Batman contributed his own Watchtower space base as a foothold and observatory for the Alliance in the universe. The cost of this satellite orbiting the Earth had already exceeded the limit that could be measured by money. The technology contained in it was also beyond the current peak level of human beings. They teleported directly from the Hall of Justice to the Watchtower. In an instant, they came to space from the Bright Hall. Looking at the blue planet under their feet, the Flash and Poseidon were a little surprised as it was their first time coming to such a high place. Diana and Superman also looked at the large space base. The black walls and silver pipes were a perfect match for Batman's color. There were meeting rooms, training rooms, lounges, and entertainment rooms. It was hard to imagine how an ordinary person like Batman could build such a base in space with existing human technology. Thea tried to feel it with her heart. She was too familiar with this kind of teleportation technology. It was an imitation of the Green Lantern teleportation, and there were some traces of her magical teleportation. Needless to say, this was simulated by Batman using scientific means after collecting various data from her teleportation. The weapons and equipment of the Watchtower were also extraordinary. There were all kinds of missiles, planes, space-based weapons, and so on. If there was a warning in advance, the Watchtower could indeed provide some protection for the Earth. Poseidon was not interested in modern weapons, and Superman pulled him aside to look at the sky scenery. Thea checked the main control system of the Watchtower. Even if her computer skills were not as good as Felicity's, she could see that there were a lot of back doors. However, she did not point it out. Batman must have left a lot of back doors if he had contributed such a giant, which was very in line with his character. "I'll share part of the maintenance costs in the future," Thea said. There was no other way. Unlike the Hall of Justice that she contributed, she only needed to find someone to clean it. It did not cost much a year. The Watchtower was such a large sky fortress, and the daily maintenance cost was huge. Diana and Poseidon were nominally princesses and kings, but they did not have much power. They were all poor in the secular sense. Superman and the Flash were working class, and Hal Jordan was a member of the unemployed army. The rest were the two tycoons. Batman contributed the Watchtower mostly because he wanted her to help share the cost. Lord Bat happily took the check from Missy, and the rest of the people shared part of the work. Those who had space survival skills were responsible for external maintenance, and those who did not were responsible for internal cleaning. The establishment of the Justice League did not require approval, and there was no need for a press conference. The heroes only needed to show their faces in the Hall of Justice, and everyone would know that they had chosen this place as their base. Darkseid had suffered a great loss, and Earth had finally ushered in peace. Thea was ready to continue her big development plan. The people of Earth had to go out. As long as they went out of the solar system, human technology would welcome a new round of explosion. Unfortunately, there were always some people who liked to disagree. After the war ended, the media was released, and all kinds of discordant voices burst out. Who should be responsible for the lives of the 150,000 soldiers? The New World is a complete scam. Without the superheroes, there would not be such a disaster today. Are they really heroes? The traditional media was still reporting conservatively, but some online media began to unscrupulously criticize the current situation. Under their provocation, the trust of the ordinary people in the government and the superheroes began to decrease. Even after the release of the Avenger 3, the people still did not understand why so many soldiers would go to a foreign land to fight. 150,000 soldiers died, and 700,000 were injured. What benefits did they gain? This is stupid. What kind of view is this? Without the superheroes, there would be no war? Does it mean that people would not fall sick without doctors? Do we have to fight on Earth until the mountains collapse and the Earth shatters, and let everyone see that we are saving the world? Thea slammed the table in anger, but she did not lose her mind. At the end, she held back and slammed the table lightly. Shut down all the websites that started this. Check their taxes and verify their qualifications. If there is nothing wrong with them, release the hackers in your prison and take them down. At this time, Missy was sitting in the Heaven's Eye Society's office, and she was throwing a tantrum on behalf of the president's mother. Amanda was expressionless. She was used to being behind the scenes, and she had seen worse and worse. This was nothing. Thea then went to the Hall of Justice. The defamation incident had affected the reputation of the heroes, and it had to be discussed. Chapter 740. The few superheroes had participated in the great battle not long ago. To be honest, pulling them to a barren continent to fight was already the best choice. However, the people chose not to believe it under the guidance of some ulterior motives. They thought that it was all fake and a lie. The superheroes could not hand out flyers on the streets to explain Darkseid's origin, how the Universe Emperor could affect the lives of ordinary people, and how much help it would provide for their future employment. Ordinary people only cared about what happened in front of them, how much the new energy stock rose, who would win the Super Bowl, and what they could buy at home. That was all they cared about. Telling them that there were 52 parallel universes was like playing the lute to a cow. Since she couldn't brainwash them or use administrative intervention, Sia really didn't have any good ideas. She could only leave the problem to the Alliance. "What's the President's response?" Batman asked. "Maintain the status quo. Our system allows for voices of dissent." "That's what her aides suggested," Thea said casually. Moira was the only official channel of the Justice League. She was also under great pressure. Thea did not want to make things difficult for her mother. It was laughable. The reason Batman could walk into the Hall of Justice so openly was because of the government's amnesty order. No matter how high his reputation was among the people, it was useless. His criminal record was 3 meters high, enough to fill 5 safety deposit boxes. His crimes spanned nearly 20 years. From a legal point of view, he was a real fugitive and the most serious one. His amnesty order was issued at the same time as Luthor. Even though Bruce Wayne had been the chief of the Gotham Police Department for many years, Batman's arrest order had never been lifted. It was only right before the war that he was pardoned. Otherwise, he would have to deal with the government's pursuit while fighting Darkseid, which would be like the original Batman universe. "Use your identity as a reporter to explain it," Thea looked at Superman and said vaguely. It had to be mentioned here that Batman had made a bad start. He wore a mask every day, making it so that some of the 7 of them knew each other's identities, while others didn't. For example, Green Lantern didn't know Superman's true identity, the Sea King. Only Superman, Thea, and Diana knew about Batman's true identity. The whole world knew about Thea's identity, so this was easy to handle. The whole world knew that Diana Prince was Diana Prince, but the people didn't know that Diana was Wonder Woman, but the heroes all knew. The remaining 3 intersected with each other, knowing how many of them there were. In short, their relationship was very messy, which made them feel very restrained when they addressed each other. Brother Superman agreed very quickly. Thea knew that the effect wouldn't be too great. Back then, the higher-ups knew that they had to face a crisis, so they were very harmonious. Now that the crisis was over, all sorts of troublemakers jumped out. Seeing that she didn't want to talk, Batman proposed a new topic. The Justice League couldn't rely on the 7 of them alone. They needed new blood. Even if they didn't join for the time being, they could be included in the list of candidates. "Okay, I propose one. Green Arrow," Miss Thea said with a normal expression, as if she was talking about a stranger. Batman's face twitched. There was no problem with Green Arrow Oliver's qualifications. The 7 people in this room basically all knew Green Arrow. But he was too close to Miss Thea. In order to curb Miss Thea's power and not turn the Justice League into the new meeting room of the Quinn family, he couldn't let Green Arrow in, at least not now. This can be a candidate. Batman didn't reject it directly. Black Canary? Thea suggested another candidate. Batman was a little depressed. Don't think I don't know about your relationship with Merlin. This Black Canary is also your relative. He thought about it. A lady with a strong sense of justice. She can also be a candidate. The few of them mentioned a few more names. There was Firestorm, who performed well in the battle, and Atom Man, who had already made a battlesuit and made a name for himself. The young heroes were all rejected. According to Batman, the Justice League wasn't a babysitter. Those who joined had to be able to fight. In the end, a short list was made for future observation. As expected, Green Arrow's name was at the top. This person appeared in Gotham. I think his actions are very suspicious. We should investigate. At the end of the meeting, Batman threw out a stack of photos and distributed them to the few of them. Thea picked up the photo and looked at it. A young man with blonde hair, wearing a pair of goggles and yellow and blue tights. The photo was very blurry. The person emitted a wave of energy and stopped a speeding car. Although it seemed to have saved the citizens, the car still flew out and crashed into a shop. Batman attached a message to the photo. The car crashed into the shop and injured 11 people. The Gotham police were looking for this person. Anyone who knew his whereabouts could contact the police. This guy was the Golden Vanguard, right? Thea looked at the photo for a long time. She didn't have a deep impression of him. She only knew that this person existed. This was another transmigrator. If she remembered correctly, he was from the same hometown as Reverse Lightning. They were both from the 25th century. His son was also an old acquaintance of Thea. The famous Wave Rider captain of tomorrow's legend, Rip Hunter. Never seen him before. I don't know him. She didn't tell the truth. After all, the Golden Vanguard wasn't a bad person. If he had any problems, he would contact the Justice League himself. She didn't think much of it. Green Lantern, on the other hand, was excited to capture the Golden Vanguard with Batman. The Golden Vanguard's technological equipment was very sharp. The two of them chased him for a week and saw him twice. He had a good attitude. Unfortunately, Green Lantern Hal had a bad temper. The three of them started to fight after a few words. They couldn't catch him either time. After another meeting, Batman suggested that everyone should go and capture him together. This guy's technology is very advanced, and he seems to have some kind of magic effect. Anyone who appears around him will be unlucky. We've been following him for a week. There were 3 traffic accidents around him. All 3 times we saved the dignitaries who were about to die. The price was the destruction of a post office building, 5 police cars, 25 police officers, 39 injured passers-by, and property damage. Batman rambled on for a long time before he came up with the conclusion that this guy was a magician or had some kind of power that brought bad luck with him. Thea almost spat in his face. What kind of magic was that? He was a transmigrator. What was so strange about him knowing a lot of information about the rich people who were in trouble? As for those injured people, it was all because the Golden Vanguard didn't know how to control his power. This guy could be said to be a hero who was arrogant but weak. However, she couldn't say this. Seeing her lover in a difficult position, Diana volunteered to help. The Valkyrie's action was no small matter. In less than 2 hours, they caught the Golden Vanguard like a dead dog. The golden-haired man was brought into the Hall of Justice with a truth lasso wrapped around his neck twice. He then spilled the beans. Chapter 741. My name is Michael Carter. I was born in Gotham City. It's the 25th century in Gotham City. I was originally the quarterback of the team, but I was exposed due to gambling. After that, I found a job guarding a museum at night. In the end, I stole a few pieces of equipment and came to this world. I want to start over, be a good person, be a superhero. The truth was revealed. Everything that was said under the truth noose was the truth. This guy was not a bad person, so they did not make things difficult for him. Go, we'll protect this world. You should return to your timeline. Diana untied the noose and comforted him. As for the Golden Vanguard's suggestion to join the Justice League, they all voted against it. Even the Green Arrow was not in. Who do you think you are? Originally, Thea thought that the Golden Vanguard was just a small fry, so she did not pay much attention to it. It was not until Moira brought her a piece of news that she took it seriously. International Justice League? Are you kidding me? Thea looked at the news in her hand and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Just by looking at their leader, she knew how unreliable this organization was. The Golden Vanguard. The leader of this International Justice League was the Golden Vanguard. It was worth mentioning that this name was issued by the United Nations Committee for the Supervision and Management of Supernatural Beings. Another pawn thrown out by those people, right? There was nothing that could not be said between mother and daughter. A committee that she had never heard of randomly put a few officials in front of the stage, and then used the name of the United Nations to form a team to fight against the Alliance. It was full of the style of a politician. Thea did not need to look at the report to know that the Golden Vanguard was still dreaming of being a superhero. Unfortunately, he did not know that he had become a pawn of those people. From the bottom of his heart, the Golden Vanguard did want to help others. Unfortunately, the records of the 25th century only recorded the rich and powerful. The history books would only write that on a certain day, a certain financial group's chairman or a certain state's senator was killed. It would not write that ordinary citizens were killed by a certain neighbor, or how many people in the slums froze to death in winter. These were not recorded. This guy was very characteristic of a transmigrator. He followed the map and saved a lot of people, but in the end, he found out. Why are all the people I save rich people? His reputation was indeed high enough to cause a group of people to misunderstand him, thinking that he was someone who fished for fame, even though he was originally. The International Righteous Alliance is currently recruiting. It is estimated that they will officially appear at the United Nations at the beginning of next month. Are you interested in taking a look? Thea gave it some thought. She had nothing to do at that time anyway, so she might as well go. She wasn't even afraid of Darkseid. She didn't attack those small fries only because of the rules of the game. Go, use your status as the first daughter to take a look. Do I need to get rid of some of them? Thea asked as if nothing had happened. The politicians thought that they were doing it discreetly, but in fact, without a new god like Desard to cover them up, their little tricks could not be hidden in front of the deity of trade. It was too easy to cause a fire or a car accident to deal with them. Moira thought for a moment. She had always known that her daughter was not a pure person, so she was not surprised. We can't deal with too much at once. Let's deal with 1/10 first and see their reaction. The mother and daughter pair had very viciously decided the fate of several families and dozens of people. It was not suitable to have a big change of blood. Instead, they created some unexpected conflicts, such as having two long-cherished families fight each other. Who would know? It was impossible to tell who was behind the scenes from the outside. As for who to suspect, it was better to let them be on tenterhooks and be paranoid. How are the preparations for the business alliance? Moira asked. It has entered Pluto's orbit. It's best if we can find it here and establish a trade relationship. The Neutral Business Alliance had been providing her with various resources. Now that Earth's technology was almost established, it was a little difficult to enter the Universal Era. However, with the support of the Neutral Business Alliance, the speed would increase instantly. The mother and daughter's plan was to put on a show to divert the attention of the ordinary people. Interstellar trade, how classy! On the other hand, they would use underhanded methods to intimidate those unruly wolves. With both methods, it would be easy to resolve the situation. By the way, what's in the black land that you circled in the New World? At the end of their conversation, Moira suddenly thought of this and asked. The military and those families have sent people in to investigate. Unfortunately, no one came out alive. Thea smiled and shook her head. I remember that I put up a sign saying no entry. It's dangerous inside, but these people still went in. That's the Sea of Souls. Even Superman can't enter. These people really don't want to live. You child. Moira patted her shoulder lightly. The sign you mentioned is not even the size of a palm. What's the use of it? Your Sea of Souls is about the same size as the 5 Great Lakes. It can't stop those people's curiosity at all. Thea raised her small face with a proud expression. Who cares if they die? Anyway, I've reminded them. If they want to go, they can go. She didn't tell her mother that she had created the Banshee clan inside the Sea of Souls. A large number of souls of the dead were stored there. Every day there would be new Banshees born. Now that the number of the clan had exceeded 200, a few elites would enter every few days to relieve their boredom. For the establishment of the International Justice League, the existing heroes were not very happy, but they felt that it was not a bad thing to increase the power of justice. Only Batman saw everyone as an enemy. He wanted to infiltrate the enemy's ranks to spy on them. Several people had an understanding of his character. No problem, you can go. Justice League, International Justice League, American Justice League, Dark Justice League, Youth Justice League. These were the scenery on the road for Thea. Her goal had never changed, which was to establish the Women's Justice League. Star City, this was the base she chose for the future of the Justice League. Star City's economy was prosperous. Under Moira's 8 years of governance, the population had exceeded 11 million. Now it was a super city. Occasionally, there were some small thieves, but they were all eliminated by the Green Arrow team. Star City's public security had always been the best in the country. Star City's transportation was very convenient, and it was rich in materials. Whether it was shopping, leisure, or entertainment, it was a first-class resort, not to mention that this was her own territory. Miss Moira's position for the Justice League was not to fight and kill. Those dirty and smelly villains, such as mud faces and crocodiles, were all left to the heroes to fight. Do you really want to establish such an organization? Diana looked at the program document that Thea had spent 3 days researching and laughed. Isn't there a little too many people? There are only 7 of us, including the Justice League. Your list. She laughed and asked. Thea leaned on her shoulder and whispered as if she was talking in her sleep. How can it be? With our reputation, we can gather everyone to play together and they will all come. Chapter 742. Thea and Diana still had a lot of faith. The next day, the female heroes who received the invitations all over the world hesitated for a moment before choosing to attend. Star City's local Green Arrow Shadow, the Black and White Canaries Lance Sisters, and Felicity began to help clean up the scene. The rich Thea directly occupied half of the street. In fact, this was the real estate that Robert Sr. had bought in order to stop Malcolm's plan to destroy the slums. It could be said that this large area had occupied the Quinn Group's cash for a long time. Now that time had passed, Robert Sr. had long passed away, and Old Ma had gone to the New World to teach astrology. This real estate had not been of any use. Thea waved her hand 2 years ago and flattened it all. Now, it had built a women's street that integrated food, accommodation, and entertainment. She did not set up a sign that forbade men from entering. She did not object to those who wanted to come in for a stroll, but the shop sold only female products. If they were not afraid of being pointed at by a bunch of women, they could come in at any time. Female heroes came to Star City one after another. The first to arrive were Batgirl Barbara, Catwoman Selena, Huntress Helena, Batwoman Kate Kane, and the big lowly Cassandra Kane. She took away more than half of the entire Batgirl team. Thea even had a malicious thought. Afu was old and could not cook. Master Bruce, who did not trust others, was most likely squatting at home and eating instant noodles with his son. What was Batman's expression when he heard that I was going to set up a couplet? Thea asked Barbara curiously. Barbara hurriedly put on a straight face, rubbed the lines of her face, and looked very serious. She imitated Batman and took 2 steps. Finally, she said in a low muffled voice, "Nonsense." Ha ha. A few women who knew Batman laughed so hard that they were convulsing. Using this familiar person as a source of amusement, the gap between people was instantly closed. As for whether Master Batman would sneeze or not, they didn't care. Not long after, Supergirls Kara Danvers and Alex Danvers were born. Princess Starfire and Martian Manhunter's niece Megan. Superman's wife, Louise Ryan, the Flash's girlfriend, Iris West, and the Sea King's wife, Mira, all the superheroes' family members rushed to the scene. Many independent heroines had also come. Mary McBee, the female fox who wore a tribal necklace and could use the abilities of any animal. Raven, the big loli who left Thea 2 years ago to attend high school alone. Hal Jordan's girlfriend, Carol Ferris of the Purple Lantern Corps. The Sea King's little friends, Yavala and the Prophet Cassina. Zatanna, Poison Ivy, Lightning Lady, Frost Killer. There were also Blazing Beatrice and Icy Dora, who were preparing to join the International Righteous Alliance. When they heard that there was no conflict between the International Righteous Alliance and the International Righteous Alliance, they also came to join in the fun. Thea had also invited Madame Xanadu, but Madame Xanadu declined the invitation on the grounds that she was an old woman and would not attend a gathering of young people. Fiora also didn't like this kind of occasion and chose to reject it. There were those who were particularly good at fighting, such as the 2 goddesses, and those who could not even kill a chicken, such as Felicity. In short, no matter how strong or weak they were, there were 29 heroines gathered. Compared to the slacking Thea, Diana had the demeanor of a big sister. When she saw that everyone had quieted down, she opened her mouth and spoke a lot about how women should be self-reliant and get rid of the male-dominated society. Thea didn't have such a strong sense of feminism. Everyone present were heroines. If they lacked independence, they wouldn't have made it to where they were today. The purpose of her establishing the Righteous Alliance was to unite the ladies. Compared to the male superheroes everywhere, there were too few heroines, and they all appeared as support staff. In a relaxed and comfortable environment, they could exchange some insights with each other. If they were of similar strength, they could both learn something from each other. Most of the time, it was to expand their social circle. Many heroines had few friends apart from their teammates, such as Barbara Gordon. During the day, she was the librarian of the reference room, and at night, she fought and killed with Batman. When she got home, she fell asleep and had almost no private time. Ladies and gentlemen, No, it's a slip of the tongue. There are no men here today, Thea said in a relaxed tone to ease the atmosphere. Everyone here is the elite of the elite. The purpose of my initiative to establish the Righteous Alliance is to give everyone another platform to communicate and learn from each other. Heroines aren't appendages to male heroes. They should have their own voices, but we shouldn't make ourselves too nervous. Only by understanding the world and seeing the beauty of this world can we have enough faith to protect it. We won't use hope to move the world, nor will we use fear to frighten the bad guys. In my opinion, this is a little biased and arbitrary. Everyone should have their own view of the world, but we can't use one standard to apply to everyone. Our purpose is to be tolerant, to use the unique perspective of women to observe the world and change the world. Alright, I've finished speaking. Our Female Justice Alliance is officially established today. It's still the same thing. Even if the mission is heavy, don't forget to laugh. The more happy memories there are, the stronger the belief to protect. The heroines applauded respectfully. This opening was over. You have a deep understanding of protecting? The Valkyrie teased her. Thea laughed. She wouldn't say that this sentence was extracted from the memories of the protagonist. Wasn't it a habit of heroes to recall the beautiful past and defeat the enemy? Half a block and a short coastline were drawn together by her. Whether it was swimming, fitness, sunbathing, shopping, training, or beauty treatments, there were all kinds of places. With her wealth, she even created many entertainment programs that were popular in other planets. Diana once asked if she should give the heroines some funds for their activities. Thea thought about it but didn't say anything. Heroines generally had high self-esteem. Giving money to others didn't have any practical use other than showing that they were rich. It could easily cause the opposite effect. In fact, most heroines didn't lack money. For example, Felicity was an executive, while Carol Ferris's family ran an airline. Zatanna was the descendant of an ancient family. Frost Dora was the princess of the Norwegian royal family. They naturally didn't lack money. Otherwise, there were those like Shadow and Laurel who had rich boyfriends. The poor studied and the rich fought. This saying was true most of the time. A few familiar heroines went out to play in 2s and 3s. Half a block was filled with heroines. It had to be said that this was quite rare. They took off their combat suits, threw away their swords, put on light makeup, and changed into casual clothes. They walked on the comfortable streets with their companions. They didn't have to walk through tall buildings in the hazy night. They didn't have to carefully avoid the rain of bullets. They faced the sun calmly like ordinary people, and walked into the shop. This kind of time was too rare for them. Chapter 743. The heroines could fight back and forth among thousands of soldiers and horses, so she didn't need to arrange any guides. Sia and Diana were dressed very casually. They went out together, arm in arm. "Are you feeling better?" Diana asked as they entered the cafe and ordered a cup of coffee. "More or less, but there are still some problems." Diana was the only one who understood Thea's current situation. Defeating Darkseid was not an easy feat. She had used up a huge amount of divine power in a short period of time, and it was a burden on her mental state. This was also why she was so dizzy every day. She did not have the energy to think about anything else. She only put up a "no entry" sign in her soul sea. This was not a joke. She simply did not have the energy to enter. Darkseid's divine power must still be lingering in the sea. She could only put it aside for now. As for the Earthlings who were not afraid of death and thought that there were many secrets hidden in the sea, she would just let them be. In the fight with Darkseid, the dark divine power had infected part of her. She had her own understanding of the dark domain. She could get rid of it with time. Otherwise, her origin would be damaged. How long do you think Darkseid will take to recover? This question stumped Thea. She had not thought about it. She took a sip of her coffee. The warm coffee flowed down her throat and into her stomach. The warmth was very comfortable. I'm trying my best to dissolve the dark divine power. He has more soul divine power in his clone. If he doesn't want to give up his clone's divine power, he'll have to dissolve my soul divine power before he can merge them again. Theoretically speaking, I think it'll take 2 years. Because of his level, he has more tricks up his sleeve than I do, so the process might be shorter. However, to recover and replenish his divine power, I think it'll take at least 3 years. 3 years, huh? Diana was silent. She had done her best in this battle. Unfortunately, she had not done much damage. The difference in strength between her and the great Lord of Darkness was too great. Thea grabbed her hand. "Don't worry. I'll be back to normal in half a year. Father will also be mostly recovered. Next time, even if he fights in his true form, we'll have a good chance of winning." All right. I believe you." Looking at Diana's determined gaze, Thea didn't know what to do. In this world, the only one who could infinitely improve was Superman. After hiding in the sun for thousands of years, he would definitely be invincible when he came out. He was the real protagonist of destiny. No other person or god had this potential. As for Thea and Diana, their paths were already set in stone. They could only accumulate godhood until they reached Darkseid's level. As for what would happen after that, only the heavens knew. It was a pity that there were only so many godhoods. The ones that were suitable for Diana were all with Heavenly Father. Unless Heavenly Father was killed, it would be very difficult for Diana to take a step forward. As for asking Diana to comprehend the shadow of origin, that was pure nonsense. Not to mention whether or not she could comprehend it. Even if she could, Diana's personality would change greatly. Without her sunshine-like warmth, Thea herself would also sink. When that day really came, it was simply unimaginable. Two demonesses, torturing the earth and attacking the apocalypse star and the new star of creation, killing all the old and new gods and returning the world to its original state. That was really good and powerful. Diana's warmth was the most important thing that kept Thea's heart. Thea couldn't let her see the shadow of origin. "Let's go to the beach to sunbathe?" she suggested, seeing that the atmosphere was dull. Diana didn't care. When they were about to walk to the beach, they realized that neither of them had brought swimsuit. The customs of the Amazon were originally from ancient Greece. Diana grew up on Paradise Island, which was full of women. At first, she didn't have the concept of swimsuits at all. Now, she had more or less restrained herself, but she still felt that swimsuits were troublesome. Thea wasn't that bold. Her secretary, Miss Maisie, had taken leave to deal with Luther's matter. She didn't have an assistant by her side. She was also not in the right state of mind for the past 2 days. She took out her travel bag from the space ring and searched for a long time, but couldn't find a swimsuit. She had no choice but to buy one. The shops here were all female shop managers and female employees. There was almost no one who didn't know Thea. The two of them picked a few swimsuits according to their sizes and went to the fitting room to try them on. The swimsuit that Diana chose in the end was the same as her. It was a fiery red swimsuit, revealing her firm and smooth stomach. The slender belt went around the back and tied to the back of her neck. Her hair was tied into a ponytail. Thea casually chose a swimsuit. She was happy when she put it on. It was a classic black and white style. The left side was white and the right side was black. There was a thin belt at the back. Overall, it didn't look too seductive, but it was very beautiful and refreshing. She didn't plan to go into the water. Her hair was still loose. The two of them put on sunglasses and moved 2 beach chairs to lie on. As for the sunscreen, it was completely unnecessary. Diana had been on Paradise Island for thousands of years and never knew what sunscreen was. She didn't have this habit even after entering human society for hundreds of years. Miss Maisie didn't need to mention, she also had a physique that absorbed sunlight. The two of them weren't the only ones on the beach. A few female heroes who were close to the water were also here. Mela the water controller, Caitlin the frost killer, and Dora the ice controller were seriously practicing. Inadvertently looking over, Thea realized that Dora's energy attribute was very similar to that of a mage. It was just that the way she cast spells came from her bloodline. She had the ability to control and create ice. When she gave it her all, her eyes were white and she could control the weather. She could even create a strong snowstorm. Ice arrows, ice walls, ice storms, and all kinds of ice applications were used by the three of them. The Queen of Atlantis, the descendant of a human scientist, and the Norwegian royal family. The three of them had similar abilities and combat power. Waves and ice were constantly being created and transformed between the three of them. Each of them could see that the other party's method of energy circulation was completely different from their own. Although they could not learn it, they could use the other party's knowledge to improve themselves. By learning from the other party's usage of ice, they would be able to improve themselves. Thea took a few glances and stopped paying attention. The strength of the three of them was not bad, but it stopped at a decent level. With a wave of her hand, she created a barrier and blocked the cold current. Under the warm light of Hashi, She relaxed and slowly fell asleep. He didn't know how much time had passed when he heard shouts in his ears. Only then did he slowly wake up. Faster! Faster! She knew it was Felicity from the loud voice. Go Mela! The accent was a little strange. It seemed to be the Sea King's little friend, Yavala. The rest of the guys were also watching the show. Thea took off the sun hat on her face and looked over. She couldn't help but laugh. She saw a few female heroes shouting excitedly on the shore. Diana was competing with Mela in swimming. Chapter 744. Diana's popularity was not bad, and there were many people cheering for her. Her movements were very graceful. Her arms swung in turn, and great strength flowed in the lines of her muscles. The blue seawater was lightly swept behind her, and her two long legs kicked the water elegantly. She and the water had reached a kind of extreme harmony. If Diana was like a fish, then Mira herself was a fish. She nimbly twisted her waist and swung her legs, and her whole body darted forward as if the resistance in the water did not exist. She ignored the resistance and gravity of the water. She did not need to paddle and paddle like a human. She was like a sharp arrow that had been released from a bow, piercing through the water. When Thea began to watch, they had just finished their warm-up and were each exerting their strength. Diana's swimming skills were very pleasing to the eye. With a few consecutive strokes, she overtook Mela with the help of her divine power and was 5 or 6 meters ahead. Mela smiled. Swimming to her was as natural as breathing. She did not make any extra movements and easily overtook Diana with the help of the current. There was not much suspense in the competition between the two girls. Even if the Valkyrie used all her strength, she was still no match for the Atlantean. Mela was much faster than her. Even if she was no match for Diana, she still swam the entire distance. You're awake. Thea handed a towel over. Diana did not look dejected as she dried her hair and asked casually. Thea nodded and curled up in Diana's arms like a lazy cat. Seeing her like this, Diana knew that she was not awake yet. She coaxed her back to sleep. You're making my heart ache. Diana made the bed and threw Thea onto it. She gently stroked her furrowed brows. This girl kept saying that this was a child and that was a child. In fact, she was also a child. She had inexplicably shouldered the burden of the entire world and fought so hard to defeat the enemy. Ordinary people did not understand and were full of sarcasm, gossip, and doubts. Diana was actually very angry. Even her belief in protecting was almost shaken. She fought so hard just to protect this group of people? Were they worthy? However, looking at Thea's weak and powerless appearance, she hid everything in the bottom of her heart. It had nothing to do with those arrogant people. This was her true goal to protect. The next morning, the young mistress rubbed her sleepy eyes and opened the thick curtains. Only then did she realize that it was already past 10 o'clock. I actually slept for such a long time? Stretching himself, he was unexpectedly in good spirit. Putting down the burden and having someone by his side to look after him, that feeling was really relaxing. Activating her supervision, Thea could see everything clearly. She couldn't help but sigh. These women had gotten to where they were today partly because of fate, but mostly because of their personalities. They were a bunch of tough women who couldn't stay still. The female heroes were now competing in the martial arts field. She changed into a casual outfit and walked over slowly. The training field was originally a gymnasium, but now it was completely private property. The huge martial arts field was divided into 9 sections. The outer section was an ordinary martial arts field. In order to take care of personal habits and privacy, there were 4 sealed rooms and 4 open-air arenas. The middle room had a superpower suppression effect. Even Thea's ability would be suppressed by more than half if she went in. In order to prevent the female heroes from going in to play and the bad guys blocking the door and shooting at them, the superpower suppression device was placed in the center of the field. The control system was controlled by Gideon, and there was an emergency gem underground that could teleport them to the new world. At this time, the Danvers sisters were training in the central room. They were similar to her cousin. Without the Kryptonian attribute bonus, Kara could not defeat Alex, who had undergone strict special agent training. This was the result of being trained by Fiora several times. The original spacetime was probably worse. Kara, the Supergirl, was beaten black and blue by her sister, but she had a good learning talent. She could quickly master everything related to combat. Thea only watched for 5 minutes and noticed her improvement. Although the improvement seemed small, it was quite amazing compared to the people on Earth, who had to persevere and practice to improve. The other few sparring partners were ordinary people. Laurel's lips were a little swollen, as if she had been slashed by a wooden sword, but she still persisted in sparring with Barbara. White Canary Sarah Lance was having a duel with Batwoman Kate Kane. She had been trained by the Assassin League and her skills were a notch higher than Batwoman's. However, her opponent was equally experienced, and it was impossible to tell who would win in a short period of time. Diana was also suppressing her strength and sparring with the big lowly Thea. The big lowly's martial arts talent could be said to be earth-shattering. Now that she had received careful guidance from Batman, Diana did not use her divine power, sword, or shield. She was not a match for her at all with only her Amazon martial arts. Thea estimated that she would be defeated in a minute. The rest of the sparring partners had special abilities and magic. They were either gesturing with each other or discussing some theories with each other. Poison Ivy and Fire Beatrice were researching a kind of powerful flower fertilizer, and they summoned a plant to test it on the spot. Ice Dora knew Zatanna, and the two families were somewhat related. They were talking about the effect of bloodline on magic power. Of course, not everyone liked to fight so much. There were always a few exceptions. Thea saw Princess Starfire and Lightning Lady. The two of them were excitedly telling the Martian girl Megan about their experiences on television. Lightning Lady talked about her past as a host, and Starfire also talked about her new show. When they talked about the fanaticism of the fans, the two women's faces were flushed red, causing Megan to be amazed. She wished that she was the one surrounded by the crowd. The three fellows at the periphery were even more unique. Felicity, Iris West, and Louise Lane, the three powerless women, were sitting together, discussing their experiences in terms of wedding dresses and childcare. Black Lady Ayres talked about her relationship with Barry and the problems she was facing now. The two of them, who were childhood sweethearts, were already living together, but they still felt that something was missing. The other two experienced ladies analyzed the crux of her problem. They were too familiar with each other. It was not easy to do it. Wedding dresses, decorations for the new house, wedding preparations, the three women talked more and more about common topic. Although there was an accident, the child was already 10 years old, and Louise was quite experienced in this aspect. She taught the two women who were preparing to walk down the aisle. She talked a lot about her wedding decorations, what she did on the day before, what she did on the day, and what she did after the wedding. As for her childcare experience? Sorry, the child was already 10 years old. How could she have any childcare experience? Thea was speechless. She had thought about taking in these three fellows for a long time. It was impossible to expect them to fight criminals in Cape. It was already a blessing for a hero not to cause trouble. However, as the wife of Superman, the girlfriend of the Flash, and the girlfriend of the Atom, they had the qualifications to join the Women's Union. No, the Women's Union. Chapter 745. Thea, come here and spar with the little girl. The lady was in a daze when she suddenly heard Diana calling her. She quickly looked over. She saw Diana waving at her from afar. The competitive Valkyrie couldn't hold on any longer and managed to maintain a draw. She didn't expect the big lowly to be so powerful and quickly called for reinforcements to replace her. Hee hee. Thea was about to laugh when she saw the Valkyrie glaring at her. She quickly restrained herself. She took off her coat and revealed the elastic singlet inside. Her hair was also tied up. She took a deep breath and placed all her divine power in the deepest part of her body. She also wanted to see how powerful Cassandra was. "Do you want to take a break?" she asked. The big lowly shook her head, indicating that she was fine. "Her fighting spirit is very high." How troublesome. Thea didn't have such a strong desire to win. She originally wanted to play casually, but seeing how serious the big lowly was, she could only correct her attitude and respect her opponent. This was the basic virtue of a martial artist. Right hand in front, left hand behind. She stood still with both feet and gestured for the opponent to attack first. The big lowly's eyes narrowed. Thea's starting position was often used by Madame Shiva. It was as if time had reversed, and she had returned to the time when she and her mother depended on each other. She realized that this was a martial arts competition. She hurriedly focused her mind and stared at Thea without blinking. In the blink of an eye, she suddenly sped up and rushed to Thea's side in 2 short steps. She punched out with her left fist. When Thea blocked, she twisted her waist and kicked at her abdomen. "You're fast." Thea withdrew all her divine power. Her attributes were only slightly higher than an ordinary person's. She pressed her palms down to block the kick. At the same time, she raised her leg to hook the big lowly's supporting leg. The big lowly bent her knees and jumped lightly. Her body was like a bird. She flipped in the air and kicked at Thea's face again. Thea tilted her head and dodged. At the same time, she rushed half a step forward and hit Cassandra's shoulder with her elbow. The big lowly missed her kick and slapped away Thea's elbow with her left hand. Unfortunately, she had already lost by half a move. In the face of Thea's pressure step by step, she was not in a hurry. She did 3 backflips on the spot and widened the distance between them again. Thea repositioned herself and waited for her opponent to attack. The two of them leaped up like rabbits and swooped down like hawks. After exchanging a few blows, their levels could be seen. Although the big lowly's attacks were fierce, her reaction speed and battle awareness were at an extremely high level. But compared to Thea, she was still lacking. Thea's talent in martial arts was not bad. After all, she was what Malcolm called a natural warrior. However, this good depended on who she was compared to. She was average, but she was nothing compared to the big lowly. Fortunately, she did not walk the path of martial arts to the end. Now that she stood at a different height, she naturally had a new perspective on martial arts. Although this process could not be replicated by others, she called herself a contemporary martial artist, and no one would object. On the other hand, the big lowly's body was not fully developed yet. Secondly, her martial arts were still in the ascendant stage, and her combat experience was not rich enough. It was obvious from her kick that she was a little impatient. "Continue." Thea waved her hand and motioned for her opponent to continue the attack. Their attacks were fierce and ruthless. The few heroines who were competing slowly stopped. Even those who were discussing the wedding dress were attracted. Kara was also dragged out by Alex like a dead dog to watch. Her attacking style is very similar to the Alliance's martial arts. I've known her for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen her fight like this. I always thought she was from the mysterious side and did not know any martial arts. Although there were many examples of Ms. Shiva's martial arts, White Canary Sarah Lance could see Thea's background with just a few glances. This was too familiar and it was difficult to mistake. Was this young lady related to the Alliance? She could only ask her sister, Laurel. Laurel vaguely had some guesses, but she was very smart and did not ask anyone for confirmation. Was the truth important? As long as everyone was together in harmony, it was more important than anything else. If she wanted to know the truth, she felt that Batman must have some inside information, but she had never asked. She used the excuse of not knowing to fool her sister and watched seriously. There was almost no growth potential in martial arts in this world. It was impossible to break through the void and become a celestial being. However, it was impossible not to practice. Not to mention Laurel and Barbara, who relied on their martial arts to survive. Even Zatanna and Zach Kong knew some martial arts to some extent. Because of this, they could see the essence of the battle between Thea and the Big Lowly. There were many female superheroes, but there were almost no women in the martial arts category. Other than Thea and Shiva, the rest of the martial artists were all men. The Big Lowly was now a quasi-martial artist. She basically relied on a flash of inspiration to fight. If she was lucky, she could win against an opponent of the same strength. If she was unlucky, she could not win. She now felt a lot of pressure when facing the serious Thea. Batman was busy every day and did not have much time to train her. There were differences between men and women, and the martial arts were different. The Big Lowly could only gain some experience with Batman. Sia, on the other hand, was different. After Lady Shiva's careful guidance, her general direction was exactly the same as Cassandra's. The tricky, quick, and ruthless fighting style made the Big Lowly exclaim in her heart. This was a real battle. The two fought for a full 15 minutes. Seeing that the Big Lowly was tired, Thea slowed down. In the eyes of outsiders, the two ended in a tie. Seeing that the Big Lowly wanted to say something to her, Thea hurriedly interrupted her. I set up a large illusion barrier in Building 15 on West Street. If you want to fight, you can go there. Every person who enters will be created an illusion with the same ability as themselves. You can fight with yourself and see your own shortcomings. This is what you need now. The Big Lowly's eyes lit up. Fight with me? That sounds interesting. She bowed to her, picked up her clothes, and went to find the so-called Building 15. I think you're just lazy. The Valkyrie easily exposed her intentions. Thea scratched her head. She was so busy now that she really had no time to teach children. She set up a large illusion. If there was a need, they could go in and practice. She called it self-improvement. How practical! Hearing that they could be challenged, the heroines were interested. Can my magic be simulated with illusions? Zatanna asked. Yes. Thea answered happily. As long as their strength was not higher than hers, they could basically replicate an illusion 100%. With a whoosh, a few more people who loved to fight ran out. Kara also wanted to go, but he was dragged into the small dark room by Alex and brutally trained. The celebrity trio went shopping, or rather, to enjoy the enthusiasm of ordinary fans. The wedding trio teamed up to look at wedding dresses. Hearing that it was such a meaningful thing, Shadow, who was going to marry Oliver, also went with them. Chapter 746. After sleeping in and sparring with the Big Lowly, Thea felt refreshed. Let's go shopping. Before Thea could finish, her phone rang. She looked at it casually. 2 minutes later, she showed her phone to Diana, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Look at this golden Vanguard. He can't stay still. He endorsed shampoo, sportswear, and even wants to film a superhero movie. This guy is too shameless. Heroes shouldn't be like this. The definition of a hero is to protect. It's to use one's abilities to protect more people, not to gain benefits for oneself. This guy likes to be in the limelight too much. Diana was very unhappy. Thea did not mind. The other party's actions could also divert the firepower against superheroes. Overall, it was a good thing. Let's go shopping. I saw a dress that suits you last time. The sky was blue. It was close to noon, and the light was not too strong. There were not many pedestrians on the road. Without exception, they were all women. Seeing them walking hand in hand, no one disturbed them. Diana had high standards. When the two of them were shopping, it was usually Thea who made all kinds of bold suggestions. After that, she would either nod or shake her head. The color of this dress suits you, but it shows a little too much of your back. Yes, this belt suits your skin color. Diana, who was already tall, liked to wear high heels and slim-fit dresses. Unknowingly, she looked even taller. Thea's fashion sense was impeccable. With the blessing of the art god, she could look stunning without revealing her skin or a deep V-neck. Under her careful selection, Diana chose 2 pairs of boots, a pair of high heels, 2 dresses, and a belt. As one of the richest people in the world, Thea did not even have enough clothes to wear. She only chose 2 t-shirts and a pair of boots. Did you see that? Her legs are so long, they are so close. I heard that they are. I'm so envious. Did you see the news on the website? They all said that the taller woman is Wonder Woman. The 2 goddesses walked past many shop. Many shop assistants were whispering in corners that they could not see. Unfortunately, their words fell into the ears of the goddesses. Thea nudged Diana's shoulder. Your identity is about to be exposed. Haha. This was something that couldn't be helped. Their relationship was too close, and they didn't deliberately avoid it. No matter how serious their face blindness was, there were always a few people with normal eyes. It was only a matter of time before their identities were exposed. Let them be. It's a pity that my job is going to be ruined. Valkyrie revealed a rare coquettish expression. I'll take care of you. Eldest Miss patted her chest and promised. The 2 of them smiled. They both knew that this was impossible. Diana's personality was too strong. She would not stay idle. After strolling around leisurely for half an hour, a little trouble came looking for him. Dr. Quinn, this girl wants to see you. The staff member pulled a small girl over. The girl had blonde hair. She was not tall and was a little thin. She looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. She wore a blue mask and blue tights with a large 5-pointed star painted on it. From afar, it looked like the American flag was draped over her body. The clothes were just accessories. The girl's belt and cane contained a lot of energy. The 2 goddesses couldn't help but take a second look. I intercepted your communication signal. I'm also a heroine. Why didn't you invite me? The girl said a little angrily. Thea smiled playfully. Another naughty child. However, this one seemed to have a gentle temper. Even when she was angry, her words were still organized. The other party was obviously looking for Thea. Diana stood quietly and didn't say anything. Thea pretended to ask, "Little girl, what abilities do you have? Have you done any heroic deeds?" The little girl looked like she was going for an interview. She nervously gripped her cane. I can fly. I can also control some energy. Perhaps she felt that her words weren't convincing enough. She raised her cane and shot a blast of energy at a huge rock not far away. The huge rock was shattered by the golden energy. The little girl looked at them uneasily, waiting for the result. Your abilities are not bad. Diana was the first to confirm. Thea knew that she agreed. After all, they didn't plan to save the world. Their mission was to have fun. It didn't make a difference whether they had won or not. She thought for a moment. Little girl, let me say this first. Superheroes aren't a game. I can see that you don't have any superpowers. It's all the power provided by the cane and belt. You're very weak. If you want to join this team, you have to accept the most basic combat training. I don't ask for much. You have to be able to protect yourself when you're unprepared. You have to rely on yourself, not your equipment. Do you understand what I mean? The little girl nodded in confusion. Thea facepalmed. She knew that a naughty child at this age didn't know anything. She jumped out to fight criminals just because she was hot-blooded. What's your name? I'll ask your family for their opinion first. The little girl's eyes were a little evasive. TSK, did she run out on her own again? Thea had seen too many of such plots. You don't want to say it? It's okay. You look like you flew all the way here. The satellites along the way should have captured you. Let me check. Thea took out her phone and searched. The little girl didn't believe that she could find out her identity so easily. She looked at her a little angrily. The rookie heroine's route was directly marked by the Quinn Corporation's satellites and the watchtower. Then, the information of the local residents was retrieved and their facial expressions were simulated. In less than 2 minutes, the results were displayed on Thea's phone. Courtney Whiteman? Thea looked at the little girl with a smug expression. The other party was shocked. She saw through me so easily? What a pity that I had prepared this costume for 2 nights. Thea looked like an experienced person. She called Courtney's stepfather according to the contact book. She talked to him for a long time. She put down the phone and said under Courtney's expectant gaze, "You're not allowed to go on missions until you complete the basic training. Think of a code name for yourself." "Star Chaser. I want everyone to call me Star Chaser." Thea nodded. She had accepted this quasi-hero who had brought her own rations. The deeper reason was that she wanted to train this little girl. No matter which couplet she was in, her national flag outfit was very popular. She was a natural team spokesperson, just like the American team next door. "Alex, help train this little girl. She's called Star Chaser." Thea opened the door of the training room and temporarily rescued the dizzy Supergirl. Alex enjoyed the pleasure of teaching. He pulled Star Chaser into his small classroom without hesitation. Chapter 747. Courtney, the rebellious girl who ran away from home, had no foundation in combat. Even without her superpower equipment, she was not as good as Kara. The 2 girls were beaten to a pulp by Alex. Leaving them to train in full swing, Thea clicked her tongue and continued shopping with Diana. When the sun was setting, the 2 of them bought a bunch of things. While they were packing, they saw 2 figures flashing across the sky. Hurry up! You can't beat me!" The 2 girls, Supergirl and Star Chaser, flashed across the sky like crazy. "Hee, looks like they've been holding it in for too long," Diana said in amusement. Thea was also a little amused. It must have been hard on these naughty girls to train with their superpowers suppressed for an entire day. The 2 girls put down their things and went to soak in the hot spring. This was definitely a private place. She had set up a magic circle around the hot spring, and all male creatures would be bombarded by magic if they approached. Without the cover of clothes, the difference between good and bad figures could be seen at a glance. The competitive mentality between women was no exception, even among a group of righteous heroines. Most of the members of the female righteous couplet were gathered in the hot spring. They pretended to look straight ahead amidst the mist, but in fact they were secretly observing other people's figures from the corner of their eyes and comparing them to themselves. Despising those shorter than them and despising those bigger than them, this was the silent war between women. Most of the heroines had excellent eyesight. In a space that was not too big, as long as they wanted to, they could basically see everything. In the mist, some people casually raised their hands, and some people casually shook their head. Everyone wanted others to see their beauty under the cover of their combat uniform. Other than the married trio, the rest of the heroines were all extraordinary people. The rhythm of strength and beauty was hidden deep in their bodies. Their bodies were beautiful, and their lines were soft and full of tension. They did not have the muscles of the male heroes, and the heroines showed a calm and elegant side. When Thea and Diana came in, they caused a slight gasp of surprise. Diana was the tallest of the women. She was like a taut bow, fierce and full of offensive power after years of fighting. Thea had the best figure and a pretty face. Her eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. Her status as a goddess of literature and art was not for show. She was full of artistic qualities, which was reflected in her figure. She was not fat, not thin, not tall, not short, not big, not small. Even Diana, who was also a goddess, was lacking in proportion. The 2 goddesses found themselves a small pool and lay in the hot spring. They seemed to be closing their eyes, but in fact they were gossiping in their telepathic channel. Barbara's waist is a little thick. Spark's eyes are green, but his body structure is the same as ours. Hey, what do you think they are saying about us? Of course it's because Goddess Thea is so sexy and charming. Eldest Miss was about to speak when she heard footsteps. She knew that another woman had entered. She quickly turned her swan-like slender neck to look at the entrance. There were many people who were doing the same thing as her. It was just that some were doing it secretly while others were doing it openly. Supergirl, Starchaser, Martian Girl, Raven, and Cassandra, who had been fooling around for half a day, felt contempt the moment they entered the hot spring. They were just a few children. This was the first thought in the minds of many heroines. Raven's development had always been slow due to her Tri-Palace demon bloodline. Now, her body was about the same as a flat plate. Cassandra had been practicing martial arts too hard, and had been running around with her mother. Her development was also very slow. The Martian Girl was very shameless. Her body was obviously average, but when she saw the other girls looking at her, she used her special ability to control the density of her body and made herself look hot. When she turned around and saw the dissatisfied gazes of her friends, she scratched her head and retracted her body. Kara was the oldest. She had a job and pocket money, so she ate without holding back. Now, her body was bloated like a balloon. However, she was still not as good as Starchaser. Starchaser was 3 years younger than her, but her body was at least a cup size lower than hers. Usually, she was wrapped in tights and could not be seen. Now that she looked like this, she had developed quite well. When the group of perverted sisters saw that the half-grown children were not interested, they all turned their gazes away. Thea did not want to be surrounded by a group of people. She set up a barrier in front of her, blocking all sight and sound. The people outside could not see them, but they could see outside. The two girls stretched out their legs to compare. "Your legs are still longer than mine," Thea said embarrassedly. Diana cautiously glanced outside and felt the magic flow of the soundproof barrier. Even Zatanna wouldn't be able to eavesdrop on them. She slapped away Kara's hand that was stroking her leg. "That's my only strength." Thea bit her earlobe. "Who said so? Your fingers are also very strong, unlike us mage-type gods who are weak and powerless, right?" After saying that, she stretched out a slender index finger and stroked Diana's red lip. Her finger and her tongue mixed together, and the two of them looked a little intoxicated. "You're not thinking of playing here, are you?" Diana wanted to say something, but unfortunately, Thea's finger was still in her mouth. She could only ask in the telepathic channel with a hint of hesitation in her voice. Thea pretended that she did not understand what she was saying and continued to tease her. "Let's go back to the room." Diana showed a rare little girl's pleading expression, which amused Thea. She thought that she had succeeded and wanted to teleport back to the room. Unfortunately, her magic skills were far inferior to Thea's. Thea pinched her teleportation spell and looked at her with a faint smile. Thea would of course not spar in public. Diana was thin-skinned and she was not that bold. "We're just talking. I won't do anything else." As she said that, she licked Kara's delicate earlobe with her tongue. "You vixen." Diana wanted to take out the true word lasso and tie the eldest miss up and down 3 times to hang her up and beat her, but she also knew that she couldn't make too much noise. Passively defending was not the Valkyrie's style. She pushed her index finger out of her mouth and moved quickly. She turned Thea's shoulders 180 degrees and tied her hands behind her back. Diana looked at her proudly. Thea's long and strong fingers entered the predetermined battlefield. The two goddesses' eyes were filled with lust. Their tongues were teasing each other in their mouth. Their long legs were snuggled together like 2 snakes. "Why don't we have a friendly match here?" As soon as this thought popped up, they immediately extinguished it. "Let's go back to the room." Just as Thea was about to teleport, gunshots came from outside the block. "Let go of me first. There seem to be enemies outside," she said softly. Diana did not have X-ray vision. After listening carefully for a while, she snorted with her cute nose. "Don't try to trick me. They're just a few small fries. You don't have to fight with so many heroes. I'll untie you tonight." "Big sister, you've become naughty. Is it really okay to play like this? But it seems quite exciting." Chapter 748. The enemies outside weren't strong, and Thea found it interesting. Since Diana wanted to play this way, she would play along. After all, she was the one who started it. With her hands tied behind her back, she couldn't wear the quilt in this position, but the god's punishment robe wasn't affected. She turned around and put on the divine robe. With her hands behind her back, she looked like an expert. Diana had a smile on her face, and her eyes were filled with pride. She had also changed into battle armor. The two girls removed the soundproof barrier, and the girls in the hot spring were stunned when they saw their outfit. A few of the superheroines with super vision and super hearing immediately noticed the abnormality outside. Their breasts surged, and they started to change their clothes. Zatanna and Raven used magic the fastest. They got rid of the water on their bodies and put on their clothes. The rest of the superheroines used their abilities too. Ice, fire, lightning, plants, they all got rid of the water on their bodies and put on their clothes. The normal superheroines were a little slower, but only by a little. The fastest way to change into a battle armor was the first lesson for these superheroines. Barbara and Laurel changed their outfits very quickly. Other than the water stains on their hair, they looked almost the same as usual. I thought Star City would be safer. Vixen, a black female hero from Zambia, used her necklace to see the enemies in the distance. She said with a knowing expression, "Haha, it's just a small problem. Just think of it as an entertainment for the first gathering of the Women's Justice League." Thea replied generously. She then glanced at Shadow, who was wearing a green robe and holding a bow and arrow skateboard. She whispered to Vixen, "I heard you know Oliver too. Are you with my brother too?" "Don't joke around. We're just good friends." Vixen denied. Thea had her reservations. It was rare to find a woman who hadn't slept with Oliver, but she didn't think too much about it. Although she didn't arrange this entertainment, she still felt that it was meaningful to gather all the superheroines to fight a monster, so she pulled Felicity, Louise, and Airs up. Those who had the ability to fly directly flew in the sky, while the rest used spells, abilities, and gliding wings. The last few who couldn't fly were all taken away by Carol Ferris of the Purple Lantern Corps. A group of people flew out of the street in a grandiose manner. All the female heroes were curious. Just how blind were the enemies that came to kill them at this time? The attackers and defenders fought fiercely, and the sound of gunfire was endless. Thea hired the Blackwater Company to protect her, and they were all female soldiers who had been on the battlefield. They were well paid, and they knew how many people were backing them, so they fought back calmly against the intruders. When Thea and the others arrived, they heard a man speaking in a low voice. "Oh hee. Was there someone important here? I just want to go in and take a look." Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by a group of figures descending from the sky. In this day and age, there were basically no weaklings who could fly on their own. He began to size up this group of people. Thea wasn't wearing her signature quilt outfit, but a mysterious robe with a hood. This image wasn't widely known. Diana was very recognizable, and there was almost no one who didn't know her. This made the middle-aged man's eyes shrink slightly, as if he didn't expect to meet a superhero just by following the magical wave out for a stroll. He looked around and didn't seem to see Superman or Batman, which made him feel relieved. Most of the female heroes' brilliance was overshadowed by the male heroes. Even though Batwoman Barbara and the others had been famous for many years, the middle-aged man didn't attract much attention. "Who is this guy? Do you know him?" Thea had some guesses in her mind, but she still asked as if there was no one around. "He is Ninja Masters Jr., Damien Dark. I heard that he knows some magic," White Canary Sarah Lance said in a normal tone. In the past, this guy was a strong enemy, but now there were so many female heroes here, and each of them killed him with a kick. "It's really this guy." Thea looked at the fair fatty standing in the crowd. "Isn't this guy the boss of the 4th season of Green Arrow? How unlucky must he be to bump into my doorstep? He has the same name as Damien?" Let me deal with him. The black-bellied lowly raven took the initiative to ask for a fight. How could such a silly guy deserve to be called Damien? Let me. My energy weapon is very powerful. Starchaser raised her arms and asked for a fight as if she was answering a question in a classroom. She ran out excitedly. She thought it was going to be a big battle, but there were only 30 people below, including the boss and his minions? This was not enough to fight at all. Me too. Supergirl was a little itchy after being beaten up by Alex for the whole day. You guys are pissing me off. Damien Dark, who was on the ground, was very unhappy that they didn't take him seriously. In his opinion, other than Diana, the rest of the women were no match for his powerful magic. That was what he thought, and that was what he did. He opened his right hand abruptly, and an invisible force rushed toward the women in the sky. Seeing that he had made his move, the more than 20 fully armed mercenaries behind him also raised their weapons and aimed at the people in the sky. Who was going to stop them? Thea looked at Zatanna and then at Raven. In the end, the lowly couldn't hold it in anymore. Raven waved her hand and swatted away Damien's magic as if she was swatting away a fly. It was simple and violent. There was no technique involved. It was just a head-on clash. This kind of battle is meaningless. Whoever wants to fight can go down and have some fun. Don't kill them. After that, send the ordinary people to the Star City police station. Thea said calmly. This was just an entertainment activity. Everyone was just exercising their bodies after soaking in the hot spring. You don't have to thank me. Starchaser took the lead and rushed down. The rest of the women looked at each other. They couldn't tell if these people were here to put on a show or if they were just unlucky. The girls giggled as they each found a random soldier to play with. Kara, remember the special training during the day. Don't use your ability. Alex grabbed Supergirl and whispered to her. Supergirl had no choice but to pretend that she was an ordinary person and fought with a mercenary. Thea saw that Diana was giving her a playful look, so she also picked a random soldier to play with. So what if her hands were tied? Thea's spiritual power wasn't hindered at all. She grabbed an unlucky guy and sealed his mouth. She lifted him upside down and threw him into the air. She caught him again and made him look like a flying man. The rest of the heroines showed off their abilities. For example, Mira, Caitlin, and Frost Dora had similar abilities. There were many things that couldn't be explained clearly during the day. Now that this was a good entertainment activity, they could try out their skills. Chapter 749. The trio of Frost each pulled a random soldier to test their ability to control water and make ice. As for how they felt, sorry, as long as they didn't die, it was fine. These guys broke into private property at night with weapons. They were not good people. Some were full of academic spirit, such as the trio of Frost. Some were purely for fun, such as Lightning Lady, Poison Ivy, and other villains from the original time and space. They made their opponents almost unable to take care of themselves. On average, each person had one or more opponent. It was really not fun. Most people stopped after defeating one person. To them, this was just an entertainment activity, similar to the end-of-year lottery. The important thing was to participate. Cassandra was very serious. Her thin figure kept turning back and forth. She only stopped when all the random soldiers on the battlefield fell to the ground. Seeing that all his subordinates were taken care of almost like a joke, Damien Dark would be too stupid if he didn't know that he had encountered a tough opponent. But he had to ask Raven Lowly if she was willing to let him run. His magic was pitiful and laughable compared to the demon princess. Thea whispered a few words to Felicity. Felicity looked at her strangely. What did she mean by keeping her hands behind her back? It was so strange. The former hacker didn't think much of it. She quickly used her phone to call a drone over. The huge camera captured all the heroines' postures. It was a group activity for the heroines. Many heroines saw the camera and hurriedly posed in what they thought was very handsome. Not knowing that he had become part of a group activity, Damien Dark was still fighting desperately. Unfortunately, his magic couldn't beat Raven Lowly, and his martial arts couldn't beat Cassandra. Damien Dark had always thought that he had reached the limit of what a human could do with his magic power that he thought was invincible. In his narrow view, Superman and Sia were just so. Now that he was completely awake, his skills were of no help at all. His magic was countered, and his martial arts were beaten to a pulp. Was this world so scary? This was the only thought in his mind before he fainted. Come, everyone, let's take a group photo. The young mistress called out to the girls to form a human wall that was half a meter tall like sandbag. Then, the girls stood behind the human wall and took a group photo. Some of the bandits on the ground were still conscious, but none of them dared to act rashly. At this moment, they were all obediently acting as the background for this human flesh hunt. They were extremely dedicated. The heroines were not fools. They could tell at a glance whether they were fainting or not. However, they still giggled and posed. With a click, the 29 official members and Starchaser, who had brought her own food to join in the fun, were officially frozen in the photo. Some were serious, some were funny. In short, the first collective activity of the Women's Justice League had officially come to an end. It was already late at night, and the police had already gotten off work. This group of people were all tied up and waiting to be sent to the police station in the morning. The group of heroines greeted each other and returned to their rooms to rest. In Thea and Diana's room. Hurry up and untie me. It feels weird. Thea pleaded a little coquettishly. At this moment, Diana's face was overflowing with a smile. Let's play a game, a role-playing game. The bandits who were acting as human flesh tools were all sent to the Star City police station at dawn. The security was too good. The police officers rarely saw any bandits, so they happily took them away. As for Damien, he was brought back to the administrative committee by Thea. Originally, she wanted to send him to the Heaven's Eye Society. However, when she thought about the high rate of escapees from the Heaven's Eye Society, she felt more at ease locking him up in her own territory. She could just lock him up in any cell. This guy was just a small fry to her. The devil statue that was the source of his magic power was directly shattered by Thea. This method of trading with the devil was obviously an old tradition of the Assassin League. It was dangerous and did not have much room for development. Thea remembered that this white fatty had planned to use a nuclear bomb to bombard the ground in Green Arrow. He had brought a group of people to hide underground. She remembered that he had planted a large piece of corn underground. The young mistress couldn't help but think, could it be that this guy had some talent in agriculture? Wasn't his talent a little too skewed? Since he was so good at farming, he should come to Nevada to develop his skills. Before he was locked up, there was a routine interrogation. It was all the usual questions about his name, gender, and occupation. She didn't expect to get something out of him. Sir, he said that he belongs to an organization called Honeycomb. The interrogation experts asked him 3 times. He shouldn't be lying. This organization is very large and has many members. The former black bodyguard, Digger, excitedly reported to her. Thea was a little interested. Honeycomb? She picked up the interrogation record and flipped through it. Fortunately, there was no umbrella or hydra. This organization was more like a fraternity for rich people. This fat Damien was trying to instigate Sia to fight those rich people with the intention of, I'm not having a good time, so don't you all. He didn't know that his malicious revenge had given Thea a good excuse. On this list, there happened to be a family that had recently been the most aggressive against Quinn and her daughter. She had originally planned to cause a car accident, but now she could save the trouble and just confiscate their property. The white fatty Damien insisted that the other party was an accomplice. All kinds of video evidence and all kinds of clues were collected. Thea directly brought a large group of people to the door to arrest them. In a flurry of activity, The eldest young miss had outstanding military service. 2 deputy mayors, 1 senator, and 3 prominent members of society were arrested by her. All kinds of evidence of their crimes, both true and false, were pinned on them. Since they were not clean in the first place, there were even more flaws when they framed each other. Unfortunately, the charges weren't serious. They were all corruption and fraud. It was still a little short of the treason against humanity that the mother and daughter had committed. What should she do? Thea rubbed her chin and racked her brains. Was she trying to frame him or not? Sir, there's a new discovery. The black bodyguard took out the latest confession and showed it to her. Thea glanced at it casually and hurriedly looked up. Mr. Digger, are you sure that this honeycomb organization was premeditated by aliens? We have to be responsible and have evidence. The black bodyguard took out an evidence bag. This was found in the basement of one of the houses. The other party was very vigilant. The remnants of the device after it self-destructed are all here. Professor Stein said that this metal is definitely not from Earth. Taking the evidence bag, Thea looked at it. The silver-white metal, even if there were remnants of the explosion on it, did not seem to be from Earth. She had thought that it was a small matter, but now it seemed to be getting bigger. She immediately instructed, they must have a way to contact them. Send elite agents to continue digging and investigating. Report to me at any time. The evidence provided by the administrative committee was very conclusive. It turned out that there was indeed a group of aliens lurking among human beings for a long time, and they had infiltrated the upper echelons of society. In the face of the crisis, the group of people who were very noisy immediately shrank back. The originally lively storm calmed down instantly. The expected establishment of the International Justice League was delayed for 3 months with the excuse that the venue was not well coordinated. Thea learned from the 2 female generals, Lai Hua and Han Bing, that the Golden Vanguard was very unhappy. On the other hand, Diana finally quit her job at the Hepburn Foundation. It was unknown whether it was because she was back on track or because of her reputation. The Louvre Museum expressed great enthusiasm for Wonder Woman's new job, and the curator personally invited her. Diana was also interested in historical relic. After asking for Thea's opinion, she flew straight to France to work. Chapter 750. Life seemed to be back on track. On Monday, Thea saw the busy figure of her secretary, Miss Maisie, outside her office. Mr. Luther doesn't need pity. He didn't need it then, and he still doesn't need it now. Miss Maisie's expression was very normal, as if she was talking about someone unrelated to her. Do you mind talking to me? Miss Maisie thought about it and decided to speak. Mr. Luther had a big fight with his sister and left the Luther group alone. I was waiting for him on the path he had to pass by and was ready to go with him, but he rejected me without hesitation. Do you love him? It shouldn't be love. I admired him, but it's all in the past now. Miss Maisie's expression quickly changed into a professional smile. She handed her a stack of documents waiting to be signed, then walked out with a normal expression. Thea didn't have a good way to explain it. Miss Maisie was actually a very passive person in life. She liked to maintain a way of life for a long time, and she still wanted it to be the way it was 10 years ago. Her feelings for Luther were more of a habit. Miss Maisie's loyalty was unquestionable. As for sending her back to find out about her, with Luther's pride, he wouldn't do such a thing. She sighed and began to focus on her work. 5 days later, Thea came to the Alien Management Committee. Not long after she entered, the former bodyguard, Digger, hurriedly brought her a document. This is the information we just intercepted. This woman killed one of our elite agents. Thea was still very serious when she was working. She picked up the document and quickly flipped through it. The prostitute in the bar next to the New Orleans military base, registered as Priscilla? Cut our agent into pieces? Judging from the wound, she's an alien? Yes, Agent Evans found her very suspicious. Her identity was vague, so he went to investigate with his partner, Fana. After this woman revealed her flaws, she killed and pretended to be Agent Evans. She read a lot of information from the management committee from Agent Fana's mind. The black man's aura was dignified. The change in the situation seemed to have brought him back to the military camp. His efforts were very valuable, and he liked this kind of life very much. A female alien who can transform and read mind. Thea thought for a moment. Things were getting more and more out of a group activity of the couplet, and there were more and more people involved. Aliens were definitely within the scope of the administrative committee's business, so she decided to take on this mission herself. Where is Agent Fangna? In the polygraph room. Let's go and take a look. Thea soon saw Agent Fana. She remembered this woman. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a hot body. She was one of the few beauties in the Alien Administrative Committee. She had been transferred here because she had kicked her superior's indescribable thing in the FBI. After repeated questioning, the polygraph staff finally verified Agent Fana's testimony. Thea waited for the polygraph technician to leave before she asked, "Agent Fana, please repeat what happened." It could be seen that the female agent had been asked many times, and she was a little annoyed. However, she did not dare to argue with Thea. She lit a cigarette and recounted her experience. It was similar to what was described in the report. She and her partner, Evans, went to investigate a stripper. Perhaps Evans's perverted look was more obvious, so she slammed the door in anger and left. What happened after that was bizarre. Evans found her an hour later, and the two had a friendly match. When she went to the bathroom, she received a call from her superior, who told her that her partner had been dead for 2 hours. If this was a horror movie world, Agent Fana would have been dead. Fortunately, this was not a horror movie. She realized that something was wrong. When she returned to the bedroom with her gun, Evans, who had a friendly match with her, was long gone. The administrative committee's agents also analyzed that the alien had the ability to transform. Sia clicked her tongue in wonder as she listened to her story while flipping through the lie detector personnel record. This alien's original body should be female, but she could actually transform into a man to play a friendly match. Besides, her own subordinates were also very strange. In order to find clues, the polygraph staff repeatedly asked Agent Fana what position she had used, how long it had been, and how long she had screamed. After rigorous training, Agent Fana's memory was also very good. She recalled the entire friendly match second by second, including what she had been doing at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and what she had been doing at 5 minutes and 31 seconds. In the end, the time difference was less than 10 seconds. From the results of the polygraph, they had only done one thing and nothing else. "I believe you're telling the truth." Thea was very sure. It was very difficult to lie in front of her. Ordinary people could not do it at all. Even the slightest soul fluctuation would attract her attention. It was too difficult to lie in front of the divine position of the soul. "Sir, I apply to join the follow-up manhunt. Even if Evans is a scumbag, I want to avenge him." "Okay." Thea turned to ask the black man, "How's the preparation for the manhunt going?" "We can leave at any time. We need your authorization and operation code." "Okay, bring Agent Fana and send out 5 single mechas with anti-mind reading jammers. We'll leave in 30 minutes. Since that bar is called Voodoo Bar, let's give this alien the code name Voodoo." Thea quickly made the decision and ordered the black man and Fana to go and prepare. She stayed where she was and looked through the records. Even if this alien's strength was nothing to her, she would not underestimate it. In less than 20 minutes, the 5 single mechas, including the black man and Agent Fana, were ready to go. This kind of mass-produced mecha was definitely not as advanced as Thea's self-made ones, but it was still much stronger than the kinetic skeleton used to attack the Cold Flame Vatican. It was equipped with energy weapons, could fly, and could fight in close range. It was the symbol of the elites in the management committee. Manhunts could be solved with a compass or a divination spell, but Thea did not want to appear too mysterious in front of her subordinates. After all, her title was Dr. Quinn, not Immortal Quinn. Her subordinates worked together. In modern society, even if she had the ability to transform at will, they could still track her down with some special technology. Sir, the target appeared in a Heaven's Eye Society base in Mississippi. The Heaven's Eye Society replied that a lot of information was stolen. Just as they were about to leave, an agent came in and reported. Damn it! The black man was furious, but Thea did not care. Could they defeat the enemy just because they obtained information? What a stupid idea. Even if there was a mastermind behind this alien who liked both men and women, it could not be that strong. She committed the crime in New Orleans and ran to Mississippi in the blink of an eye. She probably read the location of the Heaven's Eye Society's base in Agent Fana's brain. We are not affected by the Heaven's Eye Society. We can remodel and start the manhunt again. By the way, what information did she steal? Thea asked the informant at the end. Chapter 751. Her subordinate looked at her nervously. She copied all the information about the Justice League. Thea's face froze. She thought they were targeting humans, but she didn't expect them to be targeting the Justice League. Just as she was wondering if she should capture the target directly, her subordinate reported the results of his calculations. The direction she's heading is Alabama. Thea waved her hand. Let's go. Wearing a casual suit, she led the way and flew out briskly. Her subordinates didn't dare to delay, and they all activated their armor and chased after her. In less than 30 minutes, they hovered outside a garage. Heat tracking, the target is still inside, but their heat readings are different from humans. Attack, none of the 4 people inside are from Earth. Thea waved her hand and signaled for her subordinates to attack. She was the boss, and it wasn't her turn to deal with these small problems. After absorbing a lot of alien technology, the management committee's weapons had been upgraded. The 5 of them raised their hands together, and more than 10 sound impact bombs were fired. The garage that stood alone on the side of the road was blown up into the sky, and 4 figures flew out from it. There was a fat man with a big head and big ears. Beside him were 2 expressionless women. The 3 of them were standing together in a group. Another woman stood 5 meters away. She had flaxen hair and a slightly dark complexion. She looked like a Latina. These people looked like they were from Earth, right? Her subordinates hesitated. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. They're not from Earth, or not completely. Take them all down. There were so many races in the universe, and her eyes weren't supercomputers. Thea could see that their body structure was different from that of Earth's, and that was enough. Military orders were like mountains, and this saying was effective at any time. The black man took the lead and rushed out. He felt that the fat man seemed to be very powerful. Agent Fina went to kill the target, the woman codenamed Voodoo. The remaining 3 began to attack the 2 women who seemed to be trembling. Most agents were cold-blooded and had undergone cruel training. Unlike superheroes, they did not care much about the lives of ordinary people. With Thea's guarantee, the 5 of them were ruthless without exception. The black man activated the switch on his armor, and with a low roar, a roaring chainsaw was pulled out. The chainsaw cut at an extremely fast speed, and with an indomitable momentum, it slashed towards the fat man. The remaining 4 also showed off their skills. Some were good with guns, some were good with fists and kicks. The individual armor could completely magnify their strengths and unleash these strengths on the enemy 10 times or even 100 times. The fat man did not expect the agents to be so ruthless as soon as they arrived. He transformed in a hurry, his skin turning dark brown and black hair growing all over his body. His eyes became extremely small, flashing with a ferocious red light. His jawbone protruded forward and opened at a 90-degree angle. Among his green fangs was a tongue full of barbs. The other two trembling girls also transformed at the same time. Their heads squeezed and stretched into two octopus heads, and the hair behind their heads turned into slippery tentacles. Their skin turned light blue, and their arms, thighs, and waists were full of barbs. Their index and middle fingers, ring and little fingers were glued together. Their originally delicate fingers now looked like the claws of some kind of animal. Tsk, how disgusting. Miss Fina was very glad that she did not participate. This was clearly not a characteristic of a normal species. God knows what kind of messy genes were added to this. The original target, Voodoo, was much more normal. Of course, this was relatively normal. A crocodile-like skin covered her entire body. She had huge claws and a lizard-like mouth. If she were to perform a striptease with this appearance, she believed that no matter how thirsty the New Orleans soldiers were, they would not support her. A bright green light flashed across her eyes. Thea was a little surprised. "Hi, Hal. Why are you here? I don't remember informing the Alliance." "I flew by not far away. The light ring said that there was a high-energy reaction here, so I came over to take a look." "Who are these people?" "Looks like they are based on the human body, mixed with extraterrestrial and animal genes. As for what kind of extraterrestrial genes they are, you can use the green light to check. War's database is much richer than the yellow light." Hal raised the ring and scanned the four of them. The light ring quickly gave the answer. "They are the biochemical experiment subjects of the Dino people." Thea thought for a moment. "I'm afraid they are not just experimental subjects. They are here with a mission. That lizard-like woman has just infiltrated the secret base of the Heaven's Eye Society. She has stolen information about the Justice League." Hal Jordan, who was passing by, also became serious. He did not hide the establishment of the Justice League. However, to be so anxious to obtain information, it seemed like it was premeditated and organized. "Aren't you going to take action?" Hal could not stand it anymore. "My old injury has not healed yet." "Oh right, send me a copy of the information about the Dino people." Afraid of provoking Hal, Thea did not use the yellow light ring. She took out the green light ring and copied a copy of the information. It included the language, ethnic characteristics, and social structure of the Dino people. Leaving Thea alone to study the information, Hal went down to capture the enemy. With his help, the agents who had the upper hand became even more ferocious. The two octopus women were the first to be defeated. They were injected with large amounts of sedatives and put on energy suppression bracelet. The foreign genes gradually disappeared, revealing their original appearance. The fat man who looked like a black bear took some effort. One of his arms had been chopped off by the black man, Digger. In a fit of anger, he was ready to self-destruct. Hal Jordan immediately used the green light ring to wrap him up and only released him when he exploded into powder. The last voodoo woman was surprisingly powerful. Not only did she use the biological technology of the Dino people, she also mixed the steps of a stripper into her attacks with her sharp teeth and claws. Her body had a strong sense of rhythm. She moved left and right, causing the few of them to run in circles. In the end, the impatient Thea used the body immobilization spell to take her down. "Should we take her back to the Alliance, or?" Hal asked tentatively. Thea was too lazy now. If it was in the past, they could just drag her away if they liked her. She could not be bothered. However, this person involved aliens. Since she was the chairman of the administrative committee, she did not care if it was inappropriate. This is the work of the administrative committee. If you want to participate in the interrogation, you can come and watch. If you want a written report, I can get my assistant to choose the parts that are not confidential and print a copy for you." She replied formally. All right. I'm not interested. You can deal with it yourself." Hal Jordan was also very busy. Earth was not the only planet in Sector 2814. It was not just the solar system. There were too many things that he had to take care of. After informing Thea, he hurriedly flew away. The agents took down the enemy without any casualties. They cleared the scene of various explosive fragments and brought the 3 captives away. The Black Bear man who had self-destructed also collected some cell information for later analysis. Chapter 752. Take them all back. Feed each of them 2 kilograms of true water and interrogate them about who they are going to hand over the information to. Who is the contact person? The agents were very obedient, but the results were not very effective. Thea waited until the evening of the same day before they tiredly produced the preliminary results of the interrogation. An agent wearing thick glasses was so nervous facing Thea that it took him 3 minutes to finish stuttering. What? You said they have a spaceship on the far side of the moon? Thea stood up from the chair, and her cold eyes made the agent nervous again. He only had the strength to nod. Things were serious. There was an alien spaceship so close to the Earth? And no one had found it? It was incredible. Thea and Diana often went to other planets to play, and Green Lantern and Superman flew out from time to time. Plus, there were the 2 bugs, Batman and Luthor. How could so many people not find it? Batman had a huge experimental base on the far side of the moon. Thea took the report and calculated the location of the coordinate. She really had not paid attention to this coordinate. Seal all the information and list it as top secret. The woman whose real name is Priscilla and code name is Voodoo continue to be detained. Wait for me to go to the scene. After she finished speaking, she flew into the sky under the admiring eyes of the agents. In a few minutes, she flew to the far side of the moon. There were densely packed craters, and there were no signs of microbes at all. It was empty and barren. This was a land of death. No matter how she looked, she did not see anything unusual. Were those investigators trying to trick me? This idea was quickly denied. They did not dare. Did that woman say it casually? Thea felt that the thread of fate above her head was swaying slightly. Something must be going on here. She searched several times with her mental power and supervision, but still found nothing. The universe was full of strange things. The other party must have used some advanced technology to hide the spaceship. Thea turned around and went to find Batman. He was better at technology than she was. You mean there is an alien spaceship hidden on the far side of the moon? They have been monitoring Earth? Even the usually calm Master Bat was shocked by this news. Thea nodded. If I'm not wrong, your every move has been under the enemy's surveillance. Batman also realized that the situation was tricky. His base on the dark side of the moon had been moved away, but he still left a lot of observational equipment. He mobilized all of them to analyze and calculate. All of this was caused by that white fatty that day? Catwoman Barbara rushed over when she heard the news. Only after a bunch of women asked her did she find out that the origin of the matter was related to her. Thea didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she explained. The fatty white you guys are talking about isn't specially arranged to liven up the show. He really came here himself. As for why so many things happened after that, it could only be explained by the fact that the Female Righteous Alliance had a lot of luck. Barbara, Catwoman, Batwoman, the Huntress, and the big lowly Cassandra looked at each other in bewilderment. They had thought that it would be a party for fun, but they had dug out such a huge hidden danger. I have to participate again next time. A bunch of women were talking, and the noise was so loud that even Thea couldn't stand it. On the other hand, Master Bat was expressionless and sat very calmly. But when she looked carefully, she found that the mute switch on Batman's helmet had already been turned on. Is this why you wear a mask in your own home? Thea felt that she had guessed the truth. After half an hour, Batman pointed at the screen. Your judgment is correct. Here, here, and here. These 3 points don't match the calculation result. The metal reaction here is 31 times greater than the average on the moon's surface, but the sonar detection didn't find any abnormalities here. Find the enemy and defeat the enemy. This was the way superheroes did things. Thea wanted to go and investigate herself, but Batman refused. He had to see who was secretly observing him. The heroines of the Bat team were also very interested. According to Barbara, this mission had already been added to their list of missions, so they should continue to do it. In the end, the third-generation Robin, Tim Drake, and Damian also joined the expedition plan, and there was a black guy with them. Batman introduced him to Thea. This is Lucas Fox, the son of Old Fox. His code name is Batwing. The black guy was wearing a set of bright silver high-tech armor. He was the only person in the Bat team who wore armor. Thea's eyelids twitched a few times. You must have found that there were too many women in the team, so you added a newcomer. And this guy's armor is a bit like the upgraded version of the management committee's armor? Oh, it's Old Fox's son. You look like your father. Old Fox was an excellent teacher and helpful friend. Thea thought to herself. Both father and son looked very dark. The black guy didn't know how to respond. This beauty was acting like a senior, and he didn't know whether to use the same etiquette or the same etiquette. Fortunately, the naughty kid Damian resolved the awkwardness. Big sister, do you have any clues about the flying monster I want? Thea was very busy every day. Where could she find an animal that could win a small amount of money? She tricked the naughty kid. On the other hand, Batman was like a gang leader, commanding a group of people to move all kinds of equipment. Darts, explosives, welding guns, ropes, and a bunch of electronic equipment and advanced instruments. It was rare for them to leave Gotham for a field battle, and the group was very excited. Even the big lowly Cassandra, who always had a poker face, was excitedly helping to move the supplies. She originally planned to fly by herself, but when she saw the space shuttle prepared by the Bat family, she went with the flow. There were 9 generals in the Bat family. Including her, there were exactly 10 people. Thea took the food that the old butler Ah-Fu prepared for them. Just like a spring outing, she watched as Batman opened the ceiling, rushed out of the atmosphere under the cover of the night, and started the Bat expedition. Other than Batman, the rest of the Bat family had no experience in space travel. They usually took a plane, and the experience of rushing out of Earth could be said to be one of a kind. The group was quickly attracted by the beautiful scenery of the universe. Thea ate a piece of fried chicken. Old Ah-Fu was too old and couldn't cook much now, but his cooking was very good. Considering that it was lunch for the 9 of them, she didn't eat too much. What other information do you know about this Timor Star? Asked Batman. Thea wiped her hands with Damian's cloak. The naughty kid glared at her, but she pretended not to see it. There isn't much information. They have been extinct for almost 100 years. They worship collective intelligence. Every member of the tribe has to contribute their own brain tissue after death. A large amount of knowledge, experience, and memory gathered together to form the main brain that governs the tribe. Usually, there is a clear division of labor. Perhaps this is the reason why the people on Earth named them the Hive Organization. Chapter 753. Mind reading? You don't know mind control, right? The third-generation Robin, Tim Drake, asked the key question. Actually, I suspect that the guy who read minds is a genetic mutation and not a normal ability. The other 2 women we captured did not have the ability to read minds, Thea answered with certainty. Right, since we will be entering the alien spaceship later, I have copied some of their language. Come and take a look if you have time. The light ring could connect to existing computer equipment. As Thea spoke, she downloaded the language of the Dino people and sent it to the few of them. They were constantly discussing and revising the plan. At this moment, Thea could see that the third-generation Robin, Tim Drake, was very intelligent. He rarely participated in the conversation between the 2 of them, but he gave many suggestions for the subsequent battle. On the dark side of the moon, Batman was familiar with the route. The space shuttle was not as fast as Thea's flight. It took 40 minutes before they finally landed at their destination. The Bat team was equipped with portable oxygen masks. Everyone disembarked from the space shuttle with weapons in hand and equipped with breathing equipment. The gravity here was only 1/6 of Earth's. Even with the assistance of equipment, there was still some weightlessness. This made the Bat family, who were based on martial arts, lose their enthusiasm and become more vigilant. The only one who was fully equipped was Missy. She was still wearing the lady's suit and walking steadily on the surface of the moon. Thea was not as nervous as them. She had checked the area under her feet before, but Batman said that there was something strange. She had no choice but to check again. Over there. She used her spiritual power to search inch by inch. She and Batman found something strange at the same time, and the two of them led the team towards the northwest. There's a valley here? My spiritual power did not detect this terrain at all. It's too strange. The 10 of them looked down from above. Thea used her spiritual power to scan the area twice. In her spiritual power, this should be a flat area, but in her sight, there was a deep pit that was at least 500 meters long and 300 meters wide. Although the deep pit was found, where was the spaceship? The few of them looked with their binoculars for a long time, but they could not see anything. If I'm not wrong, the enemy's stealth technology is much more advanced than we expected. The enemy must be there. Tim Drake pointed at the deep pit and said with certainty, "If there aren't many enemies, then we can create a diversion. One team will divert the enemy's main force, while the other team will rush in." Why would he rush in? That would definitely be a very harmonious fight. There was no doubt about this, but they still couldn't make up their minds on who should be the diversion. It was difficult to determine which of the two was more dangerous. There was another question on a deeper level. Who would this battleship belong to? Handing it over to the country would be a joke. None of them were selfless people. If there was an alien spaceship in the Bat Cave's collection room, it would be so glorious. Thea didn't care about the alien spaceship, but she was envious of the other party's stealth technology. Now that they were right in front of her, she didn't even notice them. She could imagine how powerful this technology was. The enemy is ferocious. His strength is unknown. You guys lure him away and I'll charge in. The eldest young miss was the first to declare her position. In order to even out the battle strength, she would definitely split into 2 groups, while the other 9 would split into 2 groups. Not good, the enemy's internal defense must be tight. We need to find out their purpose. You lure the enemy away, and I'll go in. Batman also didn't budge an inch. The two of them pushed and pushed for a long time. One said he was afraid it would be dangerous, and the other said he was afraid it would be difficult to explain to the president if something happened to her. For a moment, the two of them were particularly noble. Aldrich Pharmaceuticals didn't do anything illegal. The administrative committee listed them as traitors. Isn't it too heavy a sentence to charge them with 10 years in prison? Batman suddenly brought up a seemingly unrelated matter. Is it? Most likely it was done by my men. I'll ask them later. By the way, Bruce, among my men who died in the Yellow Lantern battle last time, how come I couldn't find a Yellow Lantern ring? Do you know the details? Thea asked. Maybe they lost it somewhere. It was so messy at the time. Is it? Ha ha. The two of them laughed at the same time, leaving the other 8 people confused. Was there some kind of parasite bacteria on the moon? Are you guys sick? This matter was led by the administrative committee. Thank you for the manpower and material support provided by the Bat team. No, it's a threat to the safety of mankind. Such a powerful enemy should be under the jurisdiction of the Justice League. You misunderstood. This matter was first discovered by the Women's Justice League. The two of them talked for a long time, but no one convinced the other. Thea didn't feel any abnormalities in the fate thread, which meant that her choice didn't affect anything. Too lazy to continue arguing. Okay, I'll lure the enemy away, but you guys really have to be careful. It's hard to say how many people the enemy will have left behind. Batman nodded. You be careful too. If possible, capture them alive. In order not to expose Batman and the others, Thea flashed into the distance, and then pretended to pass by casually. Inadvertently, she kicked a football-sized stone into the empty space of the deep pit. Buzz! A very low sound was heard. The stone seemed to ripple where it landed. Under the wave-like lines, a gray metal object could be vaguely seen. Like a passerby, she observed for a while with a surprised expression on her face. With a puzzled expression, as if she had found a treasure, she threw out another 2 large stones. This time, the exposed area was larger. Just the visible part was 100 meters long and more than 50 meters wide. The battleship was streamlined, and the gray metal revealed a sense of sharpness and coldness. Soon, a door rose on the side of the spaceship, and more than 10 translucent blue aliens charged out. Their appearance was similar to the lizard men in science fiction, but the difference was their color. They had inverted triangular heads, and 3 tentacles grew from their chins. Their skin seemed to be covered with a layer of transparent hard shell, and the blood vessels, muscles, and bones inside could be faintly seen. Their vision was deteriorating, and each of them walked out of the spaceship with their backs hunched. They used the tentacles on their chins to emit sound waves. Soon, more than 10 translucent blue lizardmen discovered Thea. They maintained their balance with their thick tails, and attacked her with their hands and feet. In order to lure more enemies out, and to let the Bat team see the enemy's attack style, she suppressed her strength and fought with the aliens. After only a few moves, Thea figured out the enemy's attack style. These guys seemed to be made from the same mold. The angle of attack and the angle of attack were almost the same. More than 10 aliens failed to take down Thea, and they were very anxious. They roared silently, and in less than 3 minutes, 7 or 8 more enemies jumped out. This time, 3 of the enemies were armed with energy guns. They were very cautious and would not shoot unless they had no other choice. At first, Thea thought they were worried about the lives of their own kind, but later she found that their weapons' energy was almost exhausted. Chapter 754. Thea fought for another 2 minutes. When there were no more aliens coming out, she pulled the group of enemies and ran away. The transparent lizard man definitely could not let her leak the news. Moreover, they did not think that Thea was very powerful. The group of people charged forward as if they were hunting. These guys don't have mind-reading abilities, but their close combat skills are as accurate as a computer. They don't seem difficult to deal with. Their weapons are seriously lacking in energy. Also, when the door opened just now, I checked inside. There seemed to be 3 or 4 enemies inside. You guys should be able to deal with them if you guys are careful. Thea reminded Batman through telepathy before she left. Seeing that Thea was pulling the group of enemies further and further away, Batman's side finally started to move. When the enemy opened the door, Damian had already turned into a shadow and sneaked in. After receiving his father's signal, the 2 groups worked together to open the hatch. Be prepared that the enemy has already discovered us. Batgirl, you and Batgirl Cassandra will search along this side. Pay attention to the weapons. Catwoman, Batwing, and Huntress will search along the northern path. Robin and I will take the middle path. Damian, stay on guard. We have to guard this back path. Let's move. Ignoring his son who was pouting, Batman quickly assigned the task. He had seen the strength of the aliens just now. The 3 of them could definitely defeat them. This was not Gotham where they could fly. Walking carefully in the alien battleship that was full of technology, the few of them had a strange feeling. Batman's team was very organized. The personal computer that Barbara carried with her had recorded the Timor language that Thea had taught them. Batwing's mechanical armor also had a personal computer. There was no language barrier between the 2 of them. As for Batman himself, he learned the language as he flew the plane. Although they felt that the aliens would not be so bored as to install a bunch of traps in their home, the 3 groups were still very careful. There were very few words on the spaceship. They could roughly understand the purpose of the words through translation. The social structure of the Dino people was like a B. They saw a few soldiers' rooms in a row, but none of them had any personal belongings. Everyone was like a part of a machine, doing the same job day after day. The spaceship was filled with a sci-fi vibe, the cabin door that automatically opened and closed, and the many unknown devices gave the Bat Team, who had been cooped up in Gotham, a sense of excitement that they had not felt in a long time. Catwoman was the best at searching. She was born with good eyesight, a keen sense of smell, and a little bit of luck. She was the first to make a big discovery. "Gentlemen, I found a large area of artificial cultivation chambers. They seem to be cloning humans. The people in the cultivation chambers all look alike." The second discovery was made by Barbara. "There are a lot of animal corpses, and they all have distinctive limbs. Some seem to have mutated with human cells. These guys were experimenting with human genes. It didn't take much knowledge to figure this out. I have 3 fellows here. They seem to be the leaders. Oh no, we've been discovered." The last one to speak was Batman. There was a burst of static in the earpiece, and then nothing could be heard. "An experimental subject delivered to my doorstep. I recognize you." Batman gestured for Robin to hold back for now, and jumped out himself. An alien with 5 tentacles on its chin said to him playfully. Batman was angry at the mention of this. What he had done on the dark side of the moon all these years had undoubtedly been seen clearly by these fellows. However, he didn't realize it, and this made him very unhappy. "What's your motive? How long have you been on Earth?" he asked. "We've been here since long before humans came to the moon. You're a very smart human. Your brain is worth keeping." The translucent lizard man seemed to have seen a treasure. 2 more aliens walked out from behind him, each with 4 tentacles. "Capture him. I want his brain and intelligence to be used by the people of Gotham." The 3 aliens surrounded Batman in a triangular formation. How could Batman, who had seen countless storms, be taken down by these fellows? He knocked back the leading alien with a dart. Then, he flew up and kicked the face of the alien behind him. Another alien jumped up and tried to pounce on him, but Batman fired his hooked claw gun and flew out horizontally, escaping the encirclement of the 3. While the 3 of them were distracted by Batman and had their backs facing him, Tim Tarek jumped out of his hiding spot and smashed an alien in the head with his baton. The few of them turned back again, and at that moment, Batman charged at them again. The 2 of them cooperated very well. The 3 aliens were leaders, not warriors. Even if they had precise combat skills, they used them very inflexibly. Their enemies, on the other hand, were the best martial artists among the humans. Batman and Tim made full use of their flexibility, and fought the 3 aliens with their exquisite cooperation. The blade on his forearm blocked the enemy's sharp claws, and Batman grabbed the enemy's right hand. The enemy, who was wide open, was hit in the back of the head by Tim's pole. He wobbled for 4 to 5 seconds before falling to the ground with a thud. After finishing off one, the remaining 2 were quickly taken down. It was worth mentioning that the leader was very troublesome. Batman only managed to knock him out after 3 punches. The 2 of them quickly found the control panel. Both Batman and Tim were computer experts, and they could understand most of the alien language. The 2 of them guessed and finally removed the interference device and restored their communication channel. "What's the situation with each of you?" "Normal." The first to report was Damien. This brat was still very reliable during the mission. "We have a big guy here. Batwoman is with us. It's a little troublesome, but we can handle it." This voice belonged to Catwoman. They could tell that they were fighting. Batman quickly pulled up the surveillance of the alien spaceship and found the location of their battle. Catwoman and the other 5 were besieging a huge monster. If Thea was here, she would have noticed that it was similar in appearance to the fat man who blew himself up during the capture, except that it was taller and more ferocious. The only difference was that this monster had an extra pair of wings on its back. Unfortunately, the wings were a little deformed, and the body was too heavy, so the wings were completely reduced to decoration. Although the monster was extremely ferocious, it was still no match for the 6 of them. The big lowly Cassandra used her psychic ability and stabbed the monster's eyes with 2 daggers. Catwoman and Barbara wrapped the monster's arms with whips at the same time, and the bat wings in mechanical armor gave the monster the final blow. Not long after they finished the battle, Missy leisurely flew back with a string of captives. The few of them gathered in the main control room again. Batman, Tim, and Barbara, the 3 computer experts, were trying their best to crack the spaceship's control system. Thea began to read the alien leader's memory. The news from the 2 groups was not optimistic. Chapter 755. How should I describe their race? There's a term that I don't quite understand. It seems like their main brain died, and their clansmen contracted some kind of disease. Most of them lost their lives, and now only a small portion of them are left. According to the prophecy of the sage who sent them, they will find hope for their race in the genes of the Earthlings and rebuild a new genetic chain. This guy's position is not high and there are many things that he doesn't know. What's the news from your side? Asked Thea. Batman was a little depressed. We can't control this spaceship. Only those with the bloodline of the D-demons can take off. The subsequent commands also need to be given by the commander. The computer here is only for support. Batman was very unhappy. He couldn't get this spaceship. Although he didn't kill the aliens, he couldn't keep them in the Batcave. His place was a private place while Missy's management was a government agency. She was also in charge. It was inevitable that the alien captives would be taken away by her. Without the controller, what was the point of having a spaceship? Moreover, there were still a bunch of clones in the spaceship. He couldn't kill them, but letting them go would cause trouble. He had completely lost interest. Also, I think we need to gather the Justice League. Why? Their computer recorded that an extremist was exiled to Earth thousands of years ago. He was the most arrogant and powerful individual in their race. However, the mastermind never received any information about his death. That's why they paid attention to Earth. Also, they came to the dark side of the moon 50 years ago. However, the spaceship departed from Jupiter. This means that in the solar system, on Jupiter, they have a base or even a city, said Batman through clenched teeth. Thea pursed her lips. She didn't even have the energy to complain. A bunch of cheats lived on Mars. There was even a girl called Saturn among the superheroes. This meant that Saturn also had life. Now, a bunch of aliens jumped out of Jupiter. Wasn't there a little too many life forms in the solar system? In addition to the Atlanteans, the prehistoric civilizations on Earth, the survivors of the first, second, and third epochs, the people from the Earth's core, the Nagas, the cultists, the mad scientists, and the doomsayers. You'll realize. It was a miracle that Earthlings could live happily to this day and watch the Super Bowl or Victoria's Secret. Isn't that so? Batty's long-range attack now looked like a proper expedition. The 2 of them looked at each other. They had to get rid of the root of the problem. Who knew if the spaceship would send any signals to Jupiter? Leaving behind 8 people to continue copying the data and cracking the program, Thea teleported back to Earth with Batman. The Alliance assembled quickly. Superman, Diana, the Flash, and Green Lantern rushed over from all directions. The Sea King was slightly slower, but Mela had many new ideas after the Women's Alliance conference. The husband and wife worked together and used the pressure of the sea to launch people out. Their speed was quite fast. Thea was absent-minded as she listened to Batman talk about his latest discovery. It was not surprising that there were aliens on Earth. What was surprising was that they had been secretly observing Earth and paying attention to superheroes. That was a little scary. Thea also talked about how they had genetically modified ordinary people and sent them into human society to intercept information. The other party was collecting information about the Justice League. I stopped this information. The woman called Priscilla has also been detained by me. However, according to the analysis of the information available, she is not the real Priscilla, but a clone of the original. The original is being held by the FBI. In short, it's a very troublesome matter. 1,000 years ago, a Dino came to Earth. He was said to be the strongest among them. This person is estimated to be alive to this day. In addition, they also have a city on Jupiter. This is the problem we are facing now. Let's solve the problem on Earth first, Superman said with certainty. The rest of the people also supported him. As for where this strongest person was hiding, it was up to the few of them to find out. Thea sat on the ground alone and threw stones to divine. Batman continued to communicate with his team, trying to find information in the other party's computer. Superman flew out and used his super hearing to search the entire planet. The three heroes could not find any clues. The Flash made a trip and dragged Psyker over. Use your shockwave ability to search. As long as you have the physical characteristics of that Dino, or someone he has come into contact with, you should be able to find him. It was undeniable that the Flash was very smart. He was much faster than them searching for a needle in a haystack. Thea sent over a Dino. Psyker quickly found a single vibration frequency that was not on the Moon or Jupiter. In the cave of the highest mountain in the world. The few of them sent Psyker off, tidied up their equipment, and rushed to the highest mountain. The peak was hidden in the clouds. The temperature was -30 to 40 degrees all year round. Strong winds of force 7 or 8 blew past from time to time. The snow was blown everywhere by the strong winds. Today, a few strange people came to the majestic and solemn snowy mountain. It's so cold. Little Flash was freezing. In such a low-temperature environment, his speed was greatly reduced. The Sea King, who also liked to fight shirtless, was not much better than him. He looked like he was fine, but if one looked closely at his hand holding the trident, one would know that he was extremely cold. Especially when he looked at the two fellows in the team who were wrapped up tightly like balls, he was unhappy. Batman was an ordinary person, so it was understandable that he would wear a sweater and a down jacket. However, Thea, weren't you a goddess? She was wrapped in a large blanket, shrinking her neck and pretending to be weak. Are you gods afraid of the cold? Not only did the Sea King think about it, but he also asked about it. After he finished speaking, he pointed at Diana. The Valkyrie's armor was much stronger than the one from the novice village, but it was not completely airtight. Her skin could be seen through the gaps between her arms and thighs. Thea was wrapped in a large blanket. Not to mention that the cloak made of golden fleece was quite warm. Especially when she saw the others shivering in the cold, she felt a sense of accomplishment, as if she had clothes and they did not. She was a little amused by the Sea King's question. Of course it's cold. Most gods are not made of energy. Other than some concept creatures, a low-temperature environment is fair to everyone. Of course, except for this one. She pointed at Superman. As expected of the god of the mortal world, Superman was a perfect example of his own strength. Perhaps his frequent trips to the solitary fortress in the North Pole had allowed him to get used to the low-temperature environment. Other than the Sea King, who was frozen like a salted fish, everyone was quite cold. The Flash's speed was directly affected, and the Green Lantern's brain was numb from the cold. His courage and willpower had turned into paste. The 7 warriors struggled to climb the snowy mountain. Among them, only Batman had the most proper equipment. He had prepared a lot of high boots, ice picks, and safety rope. The remaining few seemed to be here for fun. Thea wanted to fly up, but Diana said that climbing was also a form of training and asked her to walk on her feet. The young lady could only follow the team and climb up slowly. Chapter 756. Looks like we're almost there. Batman was very busy. Not only did he have to climb the mountain by himself, but he also had to take out a device from time to time to calculate the location. Hearing that they were almost there, the few of them heaved a sigh of relief. Superman saw that they were not in good condition and flew up himself. His supervision penetrated the mountain and searched for the secret hideout of the Dino people. Found it. The enemy seems to have discovered me. I'll go over first. Superman finished his sentence and flew over. I'll go help. Thea chased after him without another word. She was too lazy to walk. Diana shook her head in amusement and chased after him in a flash of light. Seeing that the green light Hal was about to fly over, the Sea King and Barry hurriedly stopped him. Even if you want to fly, you have to bring us along. What if the enemy is defeated by the time we walk over ourselves? Wouldn't our trip to the snowy mountain be in vain? Hal could only use instantiation to bring a few of them along. Unknowingly, he was much slower than the other three. On the other side, Thea arrived almost at the same time as Superman. Diana was slightly slower by less than 2 seconds. What greeted them was a huge stone door that was more than 5 meters tall. The stone door was dark gray in color, as if it had been standing in the mountains for countless years. In the middle of the stone door, there was a relief sculpture of a Buddhist Asura with 3 heads and 6 arms. The sculpture was very lifelike. Every gaze and every movement was filled with a murderous aura. Even Thea, the goddess of art, felt that it was not bad. The 3 of them looked at each other and decided to leave the dirty work of breaking the door to Superman. The owner of the stone door saw their actions and wisely opened the mechanism slowly. The stone door creaked and moved to the left and right, slowly opening up a small path. We've finally caught up. Hal Jordan brought the 3 who could not fly and arrived just in time. The 7 of them had gathered and walked in together. The path was very narrow and could only accommodate 1 person. Naturally, Superman had to walk in front, Thea in the middle and Diana at the back. The temperature in the mountain was still cold, but it was much better than outside. Student Salted Fish Sea King was showing signs of thawing. Dong-dong footsteps sounded and 2 robots blocked the way. The androids were very similar to the Timor star that Thea and Batman had fought before. They also had a hunched body and walked upright. They had claws and a tail and had the appearance of a lizard. However, their bodies were completely covered in metal. 4 electronic eyes glowing with red light swept across everyone before finally focusing on Superman. The electronic voice was very unpleasant, as if a metal was scraping glass. It has been confirmed that the cell enhancement is due to the activity of the yellow dwarf star G2Y, Earth. The probability that the biological test confirms that the target is a standard human is 0%. The outer garment contains a mixture of 14 elements, which is inconsistent with the existing elements on Earth. Conclusion: the probability of the target being an original Kryptonian is as high as 86%, which is in line with the target setting expectations. The 2 robots scanned Superman as if there was no one around. Then, under Hal Jordan's vigilant gaze, they turned around and left at the same speed as when they came. The heroes were fearless and continued to walk in. After passing through a long corridor, the road gradually widened. Seeing that there was no danger at the back, Diana walked to Thea's side. "What do you think of the enemy inside?" "He's no match for us," Thea answered without thinking. At most, he was a slightly more powerful alien. 7 people besieging him? That would be giving him face. Diana was 1000% convinced of her lover's judgment. She also let down her guard and discussed the relief murals around them in a low voice. She also talked about her work experience in the Louvre. The 7 of them came to a square paved with brick. 18 huge stone pillars propped up a huge space that covered an area of nearly 1,000 square meters and was 50 meters high. There was a corridor that the 7 of them had walked through in the north, south, east, and west. Looking at the color of the rocks, it was at least 2,000 years old. One could only imagine how much manpower was used to excavate such a huge space inside the mountain. The architectural style was full of ancient Buddhist symbols. White elephants, lotus flowers, monks sitting cross-legged, and various stone carvings could be seen everywhere. It was not difficult to guess that this was most likely some religious holy land that was later occupied by the Dino aliens. A guy with a blue flame head, golden armor, and a black cloak was looking at them with interest. His gaze was focused on Superman, as if he was admiring some object. Thea felt that this guy was very different from the Dino aliens. Ordinary Dino aliens had a hunched back like a lizard, but this guy had a straight back like a king. Other than the blue flames, she could also sense some Dino alien's aura. He was completely different from her own race. Ha, I knew that there was a Kryptonian in the spaceship when it crashed. In the blink of an eye, you have grown so big. The other party's words were shocking, and the heroes instantly became alert. This guy actually knew the time when Superman came to Earth. Or was he present at that time? The Dino alien's blue flame head swept across the rest of the heroes. When he saw Thea and Diana, he was obviously stunned. Who were they? Or were they from some race? Thea met his gaze and sneered. She took the opportunity to strike him with fear. How dare you? You should kneel before the great Lord Hespentor, not play these damned tricks. It was obvious that Thea's fear had reminded him of some bad memories. His original arrogance was instantly shattered, and he roared in exasperation. He turned to look at Superman. Kryptonian, I will give you a chance. Kill these Earthlings, and I promise to give you new knowledge. This planet can also be yours to rule. He thought that the Kryptonian should have kowtowed to him for his generous offer. However, all 7 of them looked at him as if he was a retard. Was this guy an idiot? Diana gave Thea an inquisitive look. Haha, this is hilarious. Thea laughed impudently. She had even provoked Darkseid before. This ridiculous alien in front of her really thought she was a pushover. You have a death wish. The Dino alien named Hespentor stretched out his hand and shot a blue beam of light that was half a meter in diameter at Thea. She did not know how her opponent had gotten rid of her fear. Thea had been on her guard all this time. Faced with the enemy's attack, she did not hesitate to draw her holy sword and slashed at the blue beam. The holy sword was a little sluggish at the initial contact, but Thea quickly increased her strength and cut the blue beam in half. What a strange power! It's vast and majestic. It's a little similar to my holy sword. This feeling? It feels a little like Buddhism? This is not your original power, or rather, it's not the original power of a Dino alien. Thea looked at the skull in Hespentor's blue flames. There was a frontal bone, a nasal bone, and a jawbone. This skull obviously belonged to an Earthling. Thea looked at it again, and the more she looked, the more suspicious she became. And your golden armor, the patterns on it. Is this the armor of the Akalanatha? Are you an alien who believes in Buddhism? Chapter 757. Hespentor stared at Thea for a long time but could not figure out her origins. He had never even seen an old god that had been sealed for 1,000 years, let alone a new one. Earthling, you have good taste. How about this? Help me complete a mission, and I'll forgive you. You have the right to kneel at my feet. F***ck, where did this idiot come from? Even Darkseid had to think twice before saying this. You're too blind. Thea rolled up her sleeves and was about to chop him up when Batman spoke in her earpiece. Listen to what his mission is. She quickly realized. That's right, there was no harm in getting information. However, it was impossible for her to kneel. She could only use her acting skills. Her face was pale, and she pretended to be severely injured by the blue light but was still holding on. What are you trying to do? She said, pretending to be strong. Even Superman and the rest were stunned by her excellent acting skills. She would definitely win an Oscar this year. The Demo native introduced himself arrogantly, saying that he was the eldest son of Halspire, the leader of the Second Territory, Montos, and a bunch of other names that they did not understand. If they ignored the fact that his planet had been blown to smithereens, and that his people had not only exiled him, there were not many of them left. Just listening to him recite his family tree made them think, wow, he's a big shot. He looks so high and mighty. My benevolence is limited to today. You are all elites among Earthlings. Be thankful for this rare gift. Today, you have the honor of calling me master. Hespenter got more excited as he spoke. He stretched his hands to the maximum, as if he was releasing some gospel. Blue energy surged from his body, and there was even a faint singing voice. Thea was well versed in psychology. From his behavior, she could tell that this guy really believed what he was saying. He was not provoking them. He really felt that he had given the Righteous Alliance a great gift. However, his trash talk disgusted them. Green Lantern Hal wanted to charge forward a few times. Even the good-tempered Flash wanted to beat him up before questioning him. Unfortunately, Batman stopped them. The sly Batman even signaled for Thea to continue. The young mistress could only use an illusion to show Hazepont. In the illusion, she arranged for Batman to be the first one, and he fell to his knees with a thud. She and Diana were standing far away from each other. Due to the visual error, it was impossible to tell whether they were kneeling or not. Good. Your humility has allowed you to escape certain death. I have to say that you have good taste. Highspenter was getting happier and happier. The people of the Righteous Alliance looked at each other. What did we do to make you so happy? Only Diana sensed Thea's magic fluctuations. I'll give you a mission. If you can do it, this planet and this young galaxy will be yours. Thea didn't waste any time. She controlled the Batman in the illusion to kowtow twice. In a place called Jupiter by the people of Earth, there is an ancient temple of my race. I've obtained a few words from the remnant will of the Cortex Prime. There is a weapon that can overturn the entire universe. Your mission is to get it for me and give it to me. In return for your loyalty, I'll allow you to rule this planet forever. Highspenter's tone carried a hint of madness. The heroes looked at each other. Was this guy an idiot? They didn't do anything, and he spilled the beans on his own? We have to get rid of him, and then go to Jupiter. Superman felt a sense of urgency. The so-called weapon that could overturn the world was a bit boastful, but they couldn't ignore it. Then let's go. Thea dispelled the illusion. The scene in front of him disappeared, and Highspenter was slightly stunned. How could he not know that he had been fooled by the people of Earth, whom he regarded as ants? Just as he was about to curse, he saw Thea raise her hand and send out a bolt of lightning. He hurriedly changed his form and dodged the attack. Superman's casserole-sized fist followed closely behind. This alien was also considered powerful. He tilted his head slightly at the critical moment and used the blue flames to wrap around Superman in the opposite direction. At the critical moment, Diana kicked him in the stomach, and on the other side, the Sea King's trident came crashing down. As a great existence who could exchange a few blows with Darkseid, Thea didn't participate in the siege. Instead, she carefully observed Highspenter's combat strength. This guy was exiled by his race, and he was indeed unique. It was similar to the Martian Manhunter's psychic power. This guy's ability also came from his psychic power, but the details were slightly different. The Martian Manhunter's psychic power was invisible, but this guy's ability brought out waves of blue light. It was a bit like the psionic energy in a certain game. However, the psionic energy, which was supposed to be pure blue, was mixed with a lot of yellow light. Logically speaking, when a type of energy had impurities, its strength would decrease exponentially. The purer it was, the more powerful it would be. This was basically an undeniable truth. However, this guy used this yellow substance as a supplement to his attacks, so other than Thea, the other six couldn't take him down. As the main force, Superman and Diana took the brunt of the attack. Unfortunately, this enemy was a bit like the Martian Manhunter who didn't have a phobia of fire. His abilities were average, and he didn't have any obvious shortcomings. He could still fight back under the siege of everyone. Inside the mountain, the other 6 didn't dare to use many powerful moves. If they broke the mountain and caused the highest peak to collapse, it could cause a global geological disaster. This made them a little cautious. Highspenter, on the other hand, didn't have such concerns. He went all out and fought against 6 people at once. It seemed like he was on par with them. Superman was holding back, unable to use his strength. On the other hand, Batman was throwing left and right uppercut. He looked very fierce. Diana's dual swords were stained with Darkseid's Omega effect, and they were still in Thea's dimensional ring. She was using a high-grade imitation of a lightning spear. Her problem was similar to Superman's. She didn't dare to go all out and tried to control the enemy as much as possible. She couldn't even use 20% of her abilities. Normally, the power of lightning could suppress the mind and psionic energy to a certain extent. However, the yellow light that flashed on this guy's body from time to time could always resist the lightning. With the yellow energy on his body, Highspenter's strength and agility increased greatly. He seemed to be on par with Superman. The Flash's high-speed attacks were all blocked by his adamantine armor. Green Light's materialization could only trap him temporarily. Highspenter also had the ability to transform between reality and illusion. The attacks of the remaining people weren't very effective. After familiarizing himself with their attacks, Highspenter began to fight back. His psionic energy turned into all kinds of sharp blades. Some flew at the others, and some were used as weapons in his hands. Seeing Hal Jordan's lantern ring appear, he fell into deep thought. The psionic energy immediately underwent a drastic change. It changed from a simple throwing knife to a variety of weapons. The blue psionic energy was pulled into a weapon that looked like a mace. It smashed down on the few of them. Chapter 758. That's quite impressive. Thea looked thoughtfully at the empty wall. Master, don't you think so? Stop hiding, I've already seen you guys. 9 illusory figures of old monks walked out from the wall. They were of different races. Some of them looked kind and benevolent, while others looked miserable. Behind the illusory figures, there was a faint Sanskrit chanting. It could be seen that they were all senior monks with profound cultivation. With the soul god's position, Thea noticed them hiding and peeking at her the moment she entered. However, she did not say anything as she could not tell if they were friends or foes. Goddess of unknown origins, please restrain your companions. The devil cannot be killed, only suppressed, said the old monk in the lead kindly. Thea did not say anything. Her starry eyes looked at the other party, waiting to hear the old monk's story. The story was cliché and cliché. Highspenter had been exiled to Earth by his people for 2,000 years. Therefore, his appearance was obviously different from the current Timor star. In these 2,000 years, he did not eat, drink, or play. Instead, he was bitterly trained by a group of old monks behind closed doors. These 9 old monks came from different sections. They often fought with each other over some doctrinal issues. However, Highspenter, who descended from the sky, slowed down their sect's conflict. These were not monks in modern society. They existed in an era even older than Merlin, and each of them had magical powers. 9 against 1, they actually only had a slight advantage. The final result was a cliché method of suppressing the devil. What made Sia not know whether to laugh or cry was that this group of old monks did not know what an alien was. They saw Highspenter's strange appearance, his language barrier, his violent temper, and the fact that he killed people and massacred villages for no reason. They thought that he was some kind of evil demon or something similar. After they sealed him, they did nothing but chant scriptures at him every day, hoping to dispel the evil aura in his heart, being exiled by his people. He definitely did not have any evil aura. The old monk's powers were not as effective as the green lamp's brainwashing, but they could not withstand the long duration. Even if their bodies had reached the end of their lifespan, their souls would still be there, chanting scriptures every day. After a long time, Highspenter strangely discovered that he also had a hint of Buddha nature. A guy who used psionic energy, and was not inferior to a Martian hunter at his peak, had been forcefully converted just like that. As a psionic energy user, and one of the best in his tribe, Highspenter subconsciously knew that he could not let Buddhism completely control him. He still had some resistance, which was why he was usually crazy and spoke incoherently. He would often be immersed in his own world like an idiot. At the end of the story, Master Highspenter finally succeeded in his cultivation. Relying on his Buddha nature, he forcefully removed the seal. However, after 2,000 years, his alien body turned to dust as soon as he came out. He could only use his remaining psionic energy to wrap around the remains of an eminent monk around him, surviving as a half-psionic half-corpse. The devil, us, and this seal have been deeply engraved in the mountain. Once one side is destroyed, the entire mountain will collapse, the old monk concluded. Thea's expression darkened. Even if the old monk's powers were profound, he could only see the mountain. He did not know how great of an impact it would have on the entire Asian continent if something happened to the highest peak. It would be an apocalyptic disaster. Thousands of miles or even tens of thousands of miles would be affected. The global climate would definitely change, and what would follow would be the rise of the sea level. All coastal cities would be affected. The death toll would be immeasurable. I promise you, I will help you reseal this devil. I have high hopes for your results. Work harder and convert him completely. Thea explained the consequences to the heroes. They did not dare to kill him. No one could bear such a serious consequence, not to mention that Highspenter was not that dangerous to the world. Superman was a little regretful. Wasn't it too reckless of him to start a fight with this lunatic? Hold him back. I will reactivate the seal, Thea said through the earpiece. After that, she apologized slightly and began to read the memories of the old monk. Soon, she found their sealing technique. It could be said that the Buddhist divine arts were the best at sealing technique. There were many wonderful ideas, and even at her current height, she felt that her eyes lit up when she saw them. To be honest, the old monks were very unhappy with her forceful reading. However, they could not resist when they had a body, not to mention now that they were only left with their souls and had fallen in front of the god of souls. Fortunately, Thea was not some evil god. Although she did cross the line, she still had a bottom line. While they were smiling bitterly, Thea finished reading all their knowledge. She was at a different level. No matter how ingenious the skills of mortals were, they were still mortals. She could understand 70% to 80% of it at first glance. She could understand everything with a second glance. Under the nervous gazes of the old monks, she stretched out her hand and sent out 9 light balls. I won't take your knowledge for nothing. Your souls have been strengthened by me. I also added some of my understanding and enlightenment of sealing technique. The understanding of gods was far beyond the limits of the old monk's vision. They were a little excited. They did not know what the green lamp was, but they were itching to learn all kinds of incredible enlightenment techniques. It was a pity that they did not have a body. Otherwise, they would go down the mountain and convert another 100 or 80 people. The 9 old monks sighed together. It was impossible to go down the mountain. This was the only target left. Highspenter, who was struggling to deal with the main connection, felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. He did not know that it was his subconscious reminding him of his tragic future. All of you, return to your positions. I will seal him. The 8 old monks hurriedly went to their positions. Only one was left silently looking at the skeleton wrapped in Highspenter's psionic energy. Thea patted the ground gently. Her divine power was not in the same system as that of Buddhism, but she could control it by force. An invisible gray breath entered the ground and spread through the walls. In a loud rumbling sound, 9 giant stone tablets broke out of the ground. Only the middle one was stepped down by Highspenter. Thea sneered and did not care. The stone tablets glowed with a layer of mysterious light against the fire in the room. Over the years, the surface of the tablets was seriously weathered. Every stone tablet was engraved with dense Sanskrit characters, and a sense of history hit her in the face. Originally, the sealing process needed hundreds of monks to chant sutras together. Now she did not have this condition. Where could she find hundreds of monks with supernatural power in modern society? She let the 9 monks chant the beginning as the guide for the whole ceremony. The rest of the process was ignored. After that, she would use her method. You monks only needed to watch from the side and shout Lulu Lulu. Thea was on one side arranging the modified version of the Buddhist sealing formation. On the other side, Highspenter had a premonition that a disaster was coming. He wanted to rush out of the encirclement in a hurry. After that, he did not know whether to attack Thea or run first. His thoughts were in a mess and he could not make up his mind. Chapter 759. The idea was good, but it was hard to do in practice. Diana's defense was unparalleled. She only defended and did not attack, firmly guarding the passage. He tried 3 times but failed. Instead, his head was bruised by the shield. Hal, trap him. The rest of you, retreat. Thea shouted. Hal focused her emotions. The green lamp trapped Highspenter like an iron cage. The 9th stone tablet that had been stepped on also rose in response. Thea forced the 8 stone tablets to move. They emitted rays of golden light. Scriptures appeared on the mountain walls. These were carved by the believers with their blood and sweat. At first, they were as thin as silk. Then, they became trickles. Finally, the golden light gathered on the middle tablet. It instantly erupted with an irresistible suction force, about to suck Highspenter in. Superman finally had a use this time. You don't want to go in? I'll push you in. The 8 old monks began to chant sutras in unison, and Highspenter's resistance was visibly weakened. The old monk who had been standing beside Thea saw that Highspenter was about to enter the tablet. He leaped forward. The monk, the skeleton, and the alien were finally mixed together. They were sucked in by the stone tablet's golden light. Retracting the divine power, the 9 stone tablets slowly descended to the ground again, just like how they came out. They became part of the underground palace. Cool. The Flash touched the floor tiles for a long time. He could not figure out what the mechanism here was. The battle was not intense, but they knew that this was just an appetizer. The battle on Jupiter was the key. Let's search around. See if the 2 guiding robots from before are a threat. See if there are any other hidden dangers here. Batman gave the order casually. He then lit a torch and walked to the side of the passage. The remaining 6 looked at each other in silence. Hey, when did we choose him as our leader? Why didn't I know? Hal said a little angrily. Thea and the others had different expressions. Some shrugged, some smiled bitterly. However, it was a good idea to search separately. They quickly went their separate ways. The young lady did not think that there were any hidden dangers here. She pulled Diana to look at the words on the stone wall. Sanskrit? Diana's knowledge allowed her to enter the Louvre. She could recognize most of the words in the world. Even if there were a few she didn't know, she could fully decipher them with her divine power. That's right. Buddhism is very positive. It advises people to do good. It has some similarities with your guardian. All living beings have the wisdom and virtue of the Buddha. I don't know where the Buddha is now, but he has gone further than us and his realm is higher. Look at these words left behind. They should be helpful to you. In order to help Diana, Thea really went through a lot of trouble. Although the Valkyrie was persistent, she was actually a little inflexible. Her worldview was also influenced by her mother, Hippolyte's Greek version of, "With great power comes great responsibility." She had to understand something positive and positive. In fact, the Christian God's love for the world was more suitable for Diana's values, but Thea always felt that it was strange. Love me is enough. What kind of people were they? Stand up and let me see? She would never allow her daughter-in-law to walk on the path of loving the world. Reading the old monk's memory gave her a lot of inspiration. Wisdom, reality, these were all very good choices. At a higher level, one's appearance was born from one's heart, and the world was in one's heart. One could create paradise with a single thought, and there was a faint taste of rules. It could be said that it was very suitable for the current Diana as a reference. In order to maintain the faith, modern Buddhism added a lot of ideas of giving love to others and contributing to society. However, in ancient times, there were no such things in the theory in this underground palace. It was just some very pure cultivation experience. Not knowing what her lover was thinking, Diana read very carefully. Many of the Buddhist theories seemed very simple, but the more she thought about it, the more she found that it contained great wisdom. The two women discussed from time to time. Thea's real realm was much higher, and with the memories of many old monks as references, Thea's views on many theories were superior. Diana kept nodding as she listened, feeling that she had benefited a lot. Looking at her lover's eyes getting brighter and brighter, Thea knew that she had learned a lot. It was a pity that even though she spoke clearly and logically, she didn't even understand the surface of it. The Buddhist theory was too different from her original intention, so she could only slowly walk with Diana. Soon, two muffled sounds came from the passage. Superman and the Flash had each taken care of a robot. Diana looked at the wall regretfully. She was going to take a closer look next time. The seven of them left the underground palace. Thea first took everyone back to the Hall of Justice to discuss the next step of the plan. Back in the warm house, the Sea King finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the sunlight shining in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He would never go to such a cold place again. However, in less than 2 minutes, he frowned again. Superman and Batman had a new dispute. Superman's intention was for a few heroes with space survival skills to fly over and solve the problem, while Batman's intention was for a few Earthlings to follow. His reason for insisting was that Jupiter was too big, and they did not know where the temple was. The more people there were, the faster the search. All right, let's go together. The more people there are, the faster the search. It's been a busy day. In the end, Thea supported Batman. She didn't have any impression of the people from Dynamo. It was obvious that they weren't famous enemies. A few more Earthlings wouldn't be a problem. The administrative committee has a few alien spaceships. However, it's troublesome to register with the council. Let's use the Dynamo spaceship on the moon. Is there a problem with the control? The woman called Voodoo was captured by the administrative committee. She has Dynamo blood and can be controlled. I'll take care of these problems. Bring your equipment and wait for me on the moon. After teleporting back to the administrative committee, they easily met the female alien codenamed Voodoo. I recognize you. The president's daughter. Hey, superhero. Wearing equipment that suppressed superpowers, her body was hanging in the air with her arms and legs spread out. The true mixed-blood woman looked at Sia with a mocking smile. Very good. You know me. That's easy. However, I have a question. Do you know yourself? Do you know who you are? Humph, the patriotic and human stuff again? I know the consequences. What's wrong with working for an alien? Don't try to kidnap me with morals. How would a rich girl like you know the suffering of the bottom rung? Thea quickly raised a hand to interrupt her. You misunderstood. I'm not that bored. I don't know how much you know about genetic engineering, but I can tell you with certainty that you're a clone. She had done many cloning experiments. Initially, it was all for Shazan. Now, she had no use for it. However, knowledge couldn't be forgotten. Thea could tell that Miss Voodoo was a clone just by looking at her report. Chapter 760. You weren't born naturally, and your name isn't Priscilla. Your previous memories, your childhood, everything is fake. They were all forcefully instilled in you by the Dino people. Hello? Are you listening to me? Miss Voodoo's gaze was completely blank. If she wasn't Priscilla, then who was she? Where was she? What was she doing? A bunch of philosophical questions surrounded her. Thea could only find a chair to sit down and wait. After a full 10 minutes, she recalled all the things that didn't seem right. Finally, she had an answer. Miss Voodoo's gaze slowly recovered. Does this Priscilla exist or not? She was a pitiful person. She was kidnapped by the Dino Star when she was 4 years old. The local police recorded her as a missing person. She only reappeared 5 years ago. She looked similar to you after you transformed. She had a lizard head and sharp claws. The only difference between the two of you was that she had wings and you didn't. It was determined that she had escaped on her own. She was captured by the FBI not long after she returned to Earth. Hearing that she was a clone of someone, Miss Voodoo was completely speechless. The meaning of her existence had disappeared. Her previous life was completely fake. This made her feel an invisible fear. After a long silence, she spoke again. Why are you telling me all this? What use do I have to you? Thea clapped lightly. You're very smart, even smarter than the original Priscilla. She actually wanted the FBI to help her return to normal. You're better than her in this aspect. Better than the original? I'm still a prisoner. She stretched her neck and looked around. What's the difference between you and the FBI here? We've captured quite a number of Dino people. They should be the group you were trying to contact previously. However, their spaceship requires a special bloodline to operate. This is why I'm looking for you. Help me operate the spaceship. After that, I can pardon you. You can go back and do striptease or do something else. Unexpectedly, Miss Voodoo didn't intend to go back and flirt with the New Orleans soldiers. She actually wanted to be an agent. Thea waved her hand. Aren't you afraid that I'll betray you? Miss Voodoo was put down. Her eyes flashed as she asked. Do you have this ability? Thea asked curiously. Voodoo was about to teach this beautiful hero a lesson and let her know that he was not someone to be trifled with, but he found that his body was completely stiff and he could not move at all. Thea said matter-of-factly, See? You can't even move in front of me. What's so great about reading minds? You can't threaten me at all, and I can even control your body. As she spoke, she directly controlled Miss Voodoo to do a few movements, and in the end, she even did a front flip. I follow the principle of a deal. You help me control the battleship, and I give you freedom. Isn't that appropriate? Miss Voodoo immediately expressed that her boss was wise. I'll follow you from now on. Before she could say anything, a green light flashed. When she regained consciousness, she was already in a high-tech spaceship on the dark side of the moon. Thea looked around. Batman and the others had not arrived yet, so she brought Miss Voodoo to the control panel. When they heard that the Justice League was going to drive this spaceship to Jupiter, Batman's friends could not remain calm. Even Tim Derrick, who was known for his calmness, was a little tempted. However, Thea did not agree. It was better to wait and see what Daddy Bat wanted to do. The people from the Justice League were not slow. Thea had just finished studying the control instructions when Green Lantern Hal had already brought 3 people who could not fly to the moon. They had only heard of it before, but now that they saw a real alien spaceship docked so close to Earth, the heroes could not believe it. The spaceship started moving quickly. Unsurprisingly, the Bat team was driven back by him. It was said that he wanted to prevent accidents from happening to Gotham. In fact, everyone knew that he was afraid that something would happen to his team. Jupiter was the most massive and fastest rotating planet among the 8 planets in the solar system. Pluto was kicked out by astronomers. Its volume was 1,316 times that of Earth, and its diameter was 140,000 kilometers. The amount of work needed to find a temple on such a huge planet was not small. This time, the Justice League not only brought the Martian hunter, but also the reserve member, Ray Palmer. Seeing that they were all nervous, the big goofball could only greet Thea without saying much. They needed to set off from the Moon, pass through Mars, and the next stop was Jupiter. Seeing that the cabin was full of clones that looked exactly like her, Miss Voodoo was a little numb at this time. She mechanically set the position of Jupiter according to the coordinates and stood in the distance. Batman, the Atom, and the Flash got together and discussed the search for the temple according to the records in the spaceship. The 3 guys also studied an algorithm seriously. Thea and Diana hid in a corner and continued to study the relationship between Buddhism and the Guardian. 4 hours later, a bunch of superheroes landed on the surface of Jupiter. Jupiter was farther from the Sun, and the environment was worse. The temperature difference between day and night was huge. The lowest temperature was -168 degrees, which was much colder than the highest peak. Fortunately, they had learned their lesson. They turned on the temperature adjustment technology and used their superpowers. Student Salted Fish Poseidon was tightly wrapped. He was wearing a coat sewn with the skin of a special sea beast. At this time, he missed his warm sea water very much. Wow! So cool! A satellite the size of the Moon flew past in low Earth orbit, and the light on the ground was instantly blocked. In 2 minutes, the originally blurred ground was completely dark. The satellite came and went quickly, and in less than 3 minutes, it returned to normal. The Flash and the Atom couldn't help but exclaim loudly. Unfortunately, when the 3rd satellite flew over their heads, their excitement completely disappeared. The first time they saw it, the second time they saw it, the second time they saw it, and the 3rd time they saw it, they felt annoyed. There were 69 known satellites in Jupiter's orbit. Jupiter's mass was large and its rotation speed was fast, causing the satellites to fly with a whoosh. The Earth's rotation was about once every 24 hours, while Jupiter's rotation was once every 9 hours and 50 minutes. There was only one moon in Earth's orbit, but there were 69 of them here. The barren land, the sudden hurricanes, the ultra-low temperature, and the occasional debris from the collisions between the satellites made the heroes, who had never been to an alien planet, feel a little uncomfortable. The rest of them were also confused. This place was too big. Fortunately, they had calculated the approximate location with their advanced technology. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to find it. Our landing is still a little off. There are signs of life 20 kilometers away from us. The humanoid probe Martian Hunter soon brought good news. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.